Beautiful people. I hope that you had an amazing day. How you doing, Jim? I see you. Good night. I hope that you had an amazing day. I had an interesting day, and I just kind of had to relax and come back tonight so I can bring you the news. President Trump and Pete Hegseth. It was interesting. We're gonna watch it. Everything I should for educational phrase purposes, and I'm gonna get right into it. But you know, as always, we'll talk after. Look at this guy. Let's see what he has to say to us.
Well, we have a great group of people outside. I just looked at their wares.
I don't know if you guys
And
seen
it's
this, but it was
beautiful
great.
stuff.
It was good,
Made
Daniel.
in America.
It was great.
Great stuff. Please sit down. I'm thrilled to be with you and welcome you to the most fabulous place the White House is. Nothing quite like it. People come from all over the world. The King and Queen were just here, and they looked and they said, "This place is just amazing." When they came into the Oval Office, they said, "This is something." And they've seen some very nice places. They've seen some great rooms, but it is a very special place as we celebrate National Small Business Week. So congratulations to the small business people of the year from all 50 states. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and you can be proud of yourself. Our country's made up of a lot of small businesses, and that ends up being a really big business. As small business owners and operators, the people in this room represent the 36 million small businesses who create 40% of all economic activity in the United States. Think of that. A group of people added together. You're essentially the most important factor business-wise in the whole country. And this country is leading the whole world. We are now. That I can tell you by a lot. You're the lifeblood of the American economy, and with your help, we're truly making America great again. We're doing record business. We have a stock market that hit even with this military operation, call it whatever you want. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. We hit all new highs, and I said we have to take care of business because we can't let that happen. So we did a little detour, and it's working out very nicely. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. They have no radar. They have no nothing. They have no leaders, actually. The leaders happen to be gone
It's
also.
humorous.
But can't let them have a nuclear weapon. You'd have problems like nobody would believe. And it's going very well. We're also pleased to be joined this afternoon by Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, who's been amazing. Where's Chris? Except everybody was wrong. They thought that energy would be at $300, right? $300 a barrel, and it's like at 100. And I think going down, and I see it going down very substantially when this is over, Chris. And I think very rapidly too, at levels that you've never seen, because there's a lot of energy out there. Ships all over the world that are loaded up with it. They can't do much with it because they got kidnapped by a pretty evil place, but we're taking care of it. We have Administrator Kelly Loeffler, who's incredible, and she's the head of the Small Business Administration. We're thinking about a name change, but I don't know. It's still pretty good name. And I always say the small business is a giant business because when you add up your whole department, that's not a small business. That's a really big business, the biggest. Under the last administration and their radical left allies in Congress, small businesses were brutally crushed by the worst inflation in American history. We had the worst inflation under Biden that we've ever had. And I always like to correct, because if I don't correct, then the papers, the media goes crazy. He made a
You guys
mistake.
double tap the screen for
Well,
me,
the
please.
official
Thank
number
you.
is 48 years. I say the worst in history. because I don't believe the 48 years. I say it was worse than that, but 48 years sounds worse than, I don't know what, but it was 48 years or worse. It was a Biden inflation. They had, this is what I inherited. And now we had it down where just prior to the war, the inflation was 1.4%. And for 3 months, over a 3-month, 4-month period, took me a little while to get it down from the levels it reached. Biden added $6 trillion worth of new regulations and created an estimated 356 hours of paperwork every year for small businesses. You know what that means better than anybody? It means no good. Their policies punish hardworking citizens, and our policies protect you and reward you. And also, we happen to have something else that I think is good for your businesses. We are respected all over the world now, again, as a country. We were left at, we were a joke. We were a total joke. Right, Rick? I see Rick, my television star over here. He's been with us from the beginning, haven't you? Like maybe from the first speech. Long time, right? Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I think we're doing good for you, Rick, right? And you're doing good with your shop? And I know you're doing good on the television camera, so that's maybe more. Ah, that's good. That's great. Thank you. Last summer, I proudly signed the great, big, beautiful bill, the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, and boosting millions of small businesses. Boosting millions of small businesses. We passed no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our seniors. That's big stuff. And we add that to the package that we approved in my first term. We had the best financial years in the history of our country in my first term, and I think we're going to blow them away this term. You know, in this term, we have $18 trillion being invested in our country. And if you look at the last administration, they had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have 18 trillion during 11 months. The 12th month hasn't come in yet in terms of the numbers. But in 11 months, $18 trillion investments. We have auto plants being built all over the country, AI plants we're doing, and we're leading China in AI. And I'm going to go see President Xi in 2 weeks. I look forward to that, but I'll say I'm leading. We have very friendly competition. But it'll be a very important trip. We provided 100% expensing and bonus depreciation, which is tremendous. One of the biggest things that you have. I mean, it's people have no idea how big that is. Businesses do, so that businesses can deduct 100% of the cost of new facilities, equipment, and capital investment in the first year. It used to take 38 years of deduction. Now you get it done in one. You can take one, so you can expand. I think that's what made us so successful in the first term. But now we have it for a 10-year period. So you have it for a while. I really was going to make it for a 1-year period. That would mean you spend all your money immediately. Now, unfortunately, I gave you too much time. I was sort of against that. I said, let's do it for a shorter period of time. But we did it. It's the right thing. And this way, when I get out of office in, let's say, 8 or 9 years from now, I'll be able to use it. I'll be able to use it for myself. And to ensure that you and your family can keep your businesses in the family, we virtually eliminated the unfair estate tax or death tax for farmers and for small businesses. So, you know, oftentimes you build, I mean, I just met some incredible people. They have beautiful businesses, small businesses. They want to have their children. Those businesses were all long-term. It was, the father was there, right? We're just talking about with the beautiful pretzels. I said, pretzels, oh, those look good. I wanted to take some right now, but I didn't want to be rude and rip your bag apart. But the businesses they've been in business for a long time, almost every one of them. And you pass away, you want to have your children take over your business. They work in your business, and they got hit with the state tax, or we call it the death tax, but we call it both. It does the same thing. And they couldn't afford it. They went out, they take the business, they mortgage it up to pay the tax, and they end up losing the business. They end up going bankrupt. They end up, in many cases, committing suicide. We have a lot of that. You have a lot, especially farms. You know, they want to be on that farm. They don't want to lose their farm. And it's land rich and cash poor. and they go out and they borrow and keep borrowing. We ended that. No more estate taxes on farms and small businesses. So I hope everyone's appreciative of it. Now, if you don't like your children, it doesn't mean anything. But if you do like to leave them to somebody that you love, then it's a big deal for them. You have other problems, but for them, it's a big deal. And I want to say thanks to these tax cuts. 12 million American small businesses got an average tax cut of over $7,000, and our pass-through deduction alone is delivering an average of $4,600 in savings to 8 million entrepreneurs, and is projected to generate $750 billion in economic growth for the country. So many, it's really amazing. I see it on the television. I don't call this fake news because this is real fake news, but when you look at some of the things that have taken place, we don't get covered correctly. But in terms of the truth, we're having $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000, $11,000 with no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And people are making sometimes 11. I mean, I've seen it just where they're asking people virtually on the street, how is it doing? And everyone's surprised, including me. I didn't know it was going to be as much, but I knew it was going to be a lot. But you have people that make an extra $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a year between the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime is a big one. It's a big one. But the no tax on tips was great. I won the. Typically, I don't know why. I can't imagine people voting for the other side with their policies and everything beyond this, long beyond this. But we won Nevada by a lot, and typically Democrats win that state. And no tax on tips. A lot of people getting tips in Nevada, so it had a big impact on people, and much bigger than they thought. And they're just now starting to realize how big and how really wonderful the great big beautiful, I call it the great big beautiful bill is, because we really, it should be called the great big beautiful tax cut bill and regulation cut bill. We put everything in 4 years. If we didn't pass another bill, which won't happen because you always want to keep going, but everything was put into this one bill. That's why it's called the great big beautiful bill. And one of the things that happened is we were going to do it over 17 different bills. And I said, let's give it a shot. Put everything in one bill. And thank goodness we did it, because the Democrats don't approve anything. They don't approve. You can have the best thing. It can be for security. Look at the security. They wanted to fund ICE. They wanted to fund our incredible Border Patrol. They wanted, essentially, they wanted to fund the police, but they don't want to say it. It's crazy what's going on. So we put it all at the beginning. We have a little honeymoon period, a tiny little honeymoon period in this case. So we got it all approved. Late at night, it got approved. And this was really done as a 4-year bill, Kelly. You know that very well. You were a big part of it. And we got it done, and everybody was surprised. They thought we had to do it in little tranches. I don't know that we would have gotten the little tranches done. There was so much in here that people had to approve it. And if we would have done it individually, I'm not sure it would have gotten done. Plenty of those individual elements would not have gotten done. And almost as important as the tax cuts, we've slashed a record number of job-crushing regulations. That includes for you, and that includes tremendous numbers of environmental regulations, which stopped your businesses, but they didn't do anything, and they had no impact. If anything, they made the environment worse. But we eliminated 129 old regulations for every new one that was approved. It was supposed to be 1 in 10, and it's turning out to be 129. So for every regulation, think of that, 129, we lose them, we get rid of them. It was supposed to be 1 in 10. We would have been happy with, we did 1 in 12. We started off 1 in 7 with my last administration. We got it up to about 1 in 12. Now I see we have a 1 in 129. So we're getting rid of 129 nonsense regulations for every new one that we pass. And thanks to these pro-growth policies, our economy is roaring, and factory construction is way up. Consumer confidence is way up. Business investment is more than triple compared to that of just a short time ago. And before I took office, nobody can believe it. And nobody can believe the $18 trillion number that we gave you, because it's a record for any country, not just here, it's for any country. And a lot of that had to do with November 5th, but a lot of it had to do with tariffs. We charge tariffs to companies when they come in. A couple of you were just saying to me that you're getting hurt by China and other countries making a product that's not as good, but it's less money because of the fact that there were no guards, no safeties for you. And we've changed a lot of it. Some have said you've absolutely saved our business. But because of the use of tariffs, we have all this money, because if they come in and build a business here, if they build their plant here, there are no tariffs. Jobless claims just hit the lowest level since 1969, and more Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. So we have more people working today. That's so beautiful. I mean, what could be better than that? You say, like somebody was saying, oh, will AI take our jobs? Well, we have a lot of AI up. Is it going to take jobs? I said, well, you're probably right, maybe a little bit, but it's going to create a lot of jobs. And did you know that more people are working in the United States right now than ever before? They said, no, is that true, really? That's the end of that argument. And a lot of good things are happening. And leading in AI is very important, because that's a tremendously big industry. And we want to be able to lead. Primarily it's China, but other countries are very much active in it also. Under the last administration, 1 in 4 new jobs was a government job, but since my inauguration, 100%, think of that, 100% of all new jobs have been in the private sector, 100%. We cut a lot of government. And 2 of the 3 new jobs have been in small businesses. But I just want to say, so think of that, 100% of new jobs are in the private sector. Now, to do that, we cut tremendous numbers of governmental jobs. And I feel sorry for everyone. And it's a hard thing to do. Many of those people voted for me. But now they like me because they went out, they got private sector jobs that they like better, and it's paying them sometimes 2 and 3 times more money. So it's worked out the right way, but you have to do that. You can't just we had government jobs where you'd have 10 people doing the job of 1 person. And you can't make America great that way. So we did it the hard way, but the correct way. Big difference, right, Cal? You see it. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. And it was, especially working here, it's tough because, this is the home of federal jobs. I wouldn't say I got tremendous. I mean, we won the election in a landslide. We won all 7 swing states. We did all the things that you've heard so many times with counties, which is a big count. That's why you see the map is all red practically. When you look at it, we won 86% of the counties in the country. But here is a little bit different. But now if you look at those people, some of them have left. And by the way, speaking of that, Washington, D.C., which was very unsafe a year ago, a little more than a year ago, is now one of the safest cities in the United States. So we had to cut the jobs because we were way bloated with federal jobs. And, I could, with one swipe of the pen, I could say, let's have no employment, and I'll hire 1 million people or 2 million people. I say, we just hired 1 million people and we have absolutely no employment. And that's what they would do. They'd have bad numbers coming up, so they'd hire a couple of 100,000 people and the numbers would look okay. With me, it's the exact opposite. We terminate a lot of federal jobs that are unnecessary. And they don't like me for doing it, but a year later, they like me because they end up having a much better job, oftentimes in a place where they'd much rather live. They go to the place that they want to go. They're not stuck in Washington or someplace else. And they do much better. And in the end, I've had a lot of people come up, they say, I was so angry at you, but now I'm making sometimes 2 or 3 times the money in a job that I really like. So you got to do what you have to do. You have to politically, I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent. I think it's probably bad, maybe politically, but in the meantime, I'm in the White House, so maybe it's good. A lot of times, as you probably heard, the fake news media treats me very, very badly. 93% of the stories I get are bad. And yet I won in a landslide. How do you win all 7 swing states when you get only bad press? It's fake press. They give me fake polls. They tell me about polls and this. It's interesting. I did a poll on the war with Iran, and they said only 32% of the people like it. Well, I don't like it, and I don't like war at all, but we're equipped better than we have the greatest military in the world. You saw what happened with Venezuela. You see what happens with everything. But they said 32% of the people are against President Trump. Well, when you explain it, like, is it okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? It wouldn't be 32%. But even if you said that, there'd be a 32% because the polls are fake. I mean, they're totally fake. And when you take a look at what's really going on, the other day I made a speech in a great Florida senior citizens community, and I made another one at the Kravis Center, 2 in one day. It was wonderful. I go out and make a speech. Then I say, all right, let's go home. Sir, you're making another speech, and this one's in front of the richest people in the world. I went from an unbelievable group of seniors. Now, of course, I'm not a senior. I'm far younger than a senior. It's true. I feel the same as I felt 50 years ago. I don't know. There'll be a period of time when I don't tell you that. There'll be some honest. I'll say, it's not looking good. I have to be careful. If I said, as an example, I'm not feeling well, kid, they put on, Donald Trump is not feeling well, because they won't know that I'm using that as just a reference point, and they'll say, listen to this. I'll say, I'm not feeling well. Well, someday I might say that to you, and you'll be the first to know. Actually, I won't have to say it, because you'll be able to see it, just like you did in the last administration. You know, one of the things I said is that we should have, in my opinion, anybody running for president or vice president should take a cognitive test. And no president has ever taken one except me. I've taken 3 of them, and I've aced each one. 1 in the first administration, 2 over here. And whenever they get a little sassy, like, does he still have it? Does he still have what it takes? I say, all right, I'll take another one. And they are hard. There are many people in this room I know that are smart. They're not going to ace them. There are many people standing back there, the fake news media. I'd like to have them. You know, the first question is very easy, and they always show the first question is, you have a lion, a bear, an alligator, and what's another good? A squirrel, okay? Which is the squirrel? So they show that question. And then the first 4 or 5 questions they get a little more difficult. By the time you get to the middle, they're tough. By the time you get to the end, I don't want to be insulting, but there won't be. I'm not going to do what Gavin Newsom said. You saw him? He said, everybody in here is stupid, and he's stupid. I think it was the worst political interview I've ever seen. He said, he's stupid, he's dumb, he gets bad marks on everything, he can't read a speech. And nobody wants to report that. It was the worst. But I won't say that, because I think everyone in this room is brilliant. But nobody's going to get all 30 questions correct. Nobody. Because when you get to those last questions, they're pretty hard. You got to be pretty sharp. But every time, so I've taken 3. No president, think of this, has ever taken 1. How do you think Biden would have done? I don't think, he might not have gotten that first question right. Anyway, and Obama would have done poorly. I think they would have done very poorly. But I think you should have it. As soon as they said that, they say it's unconstitutional. And I said, why? They say it's unconstitutional to give a cognitive test like that. But Rick, I do it anytime they start getting a little sassy. And you know, it quiets them down for almost a year when they hear the result. One doctor said, it's the first time I've ever seen anyone get all questions right. That's a doctor who does this stuff for a living. And I did it 3 times. So I don't know. I think I'm done with those days. I'm tired of taking that test. You know, you sit before a group of doctors and they ask you questions. I said to Ronnie Jackson, he was original, right? First time. I said, so what do you think, Ronnie? They call me a genius who's going to destroy the country. Then they said, he's a genius who's taken over the entire world. And they said, he's a total moron. This guy is so stupid. And then, so whenever I hear that one, I said, let's take the cognitive test. But I really think it would be a great thing if you could do that. They say it's not constitutional, but I think it would be good. And I can tell you, a lot of the people that run these small businesses, you could take the cognitive test and you could do a lot better than some of the people that we talk about. But I really believe it. I think it's so important for our country. We have to make sure we have the right people leading this country. Like, we have a war right now, and we're into like, what, 6 weeks? They said, what's taking so long? We were in Vietnam 19 years. We're in Iraq for many years, 10 years, 12 years. We were in all these different wars. Korea, 7 years. I won't even mention World War II. That's a big baby. But you have the wrong person up here, you'll be in World War III. As sure as you're sitting there, you have the wrong person up there. It's nasty and tricky. It's tricky out there. We have to have the right people, and they have to be sharp and they have to be smart. Because one thing about your business, the small businesses are great, but if you don't have the platform, meaning the country, meaning the right principles, the right everything, our country's booming now, despite the fact that we're in I call it a mini war, because that's all they are. They don't have a Navy anymore. Think of it. They had 159 ships. How many do they have left, Kelly, out of 159? Take a guess. She's very smart. 0. 159 ships. In the first 2 weeks, 159 ships. I actually got very upset. I said, how quality were the ships? They were very good. I said, why didn't you just take the ship? Why do you have to send it to the bottom of the sea? We could have had, and let's say out of the 159, we could have taken 59. We would have had 59. But they'd rather blow them up than save them. I would have preferred saving them, but these are minor details. But one of the small business owners who can tell us firsthand how our tax cuts are boosting revenue is someone you may have heard, and I made mention of the fact he has been with me. I don't know, maybe he doesn't like me, or maybe he loves me. I think I'd rather be liked than loved by him, although he is a very handsome man, I would say. But he's somebody that we all know, and I think he's a fantastic guy. And he's been to so many rallies, so many speeches, and I love being able to introduce him because he's a champion, he's a winner. You know, to go on television and to make it, he made it big. But to go on television, I don't know if you know this, Rick, 5% of the shows make it. 2% of the shows make it pretty good. 1% of the shows make it. So it's very risky to do a television show and I did The Apprentice, and that was one of the great hits of a long time. But you did your show, and I've just always admired. I admire people that will go against the odds. And when you do a television show, you're going, because very, very few of them make it, and you made it big. So I'd like to have Rick Harrison come up. It's a gold, silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, and you know his show very well. And say a few words. Come on. Thank you.
All right. Usually I have like announcement rallies, and they give you like 3 minutes notice, and I can't come up with a speech. And Laker literally just told me a couple hours ago to take a little speaking. I just want to say he's amazing. He's done so much. I mean, so much for all of us. I mean, the backbone of this country is small business, plain and simple. And the last guy in office, all we heard was that we were the evil people, we were the bad people, everything else like that. We don't pay our fair share, whatever that's supposed to be. And he made it tough. And this guy, the big beautiful bill, absolutely amazing. You know what I mean? God bless you for letting me get 100% depreciation. It really helps out. And all I can say is, this is literally, I mean, I'm a history buff, and I know a lot about this White House thing and everything. Literally, he's going to go down as maybe the best president ever. I love this guy.
I'm glad we didn't tell you, because actually that was much better than when you're fully prepared. When he comes up fully prepared. No, that was great. Thank you very much. And very special guy. Thank you. Very nice. One of the strongest, and by the way, right behind me, see this? You call it a room. This is the biggest room in the White House. It's not big enough to have anything. We had the king here. We had like 102 people, and we could have had 2,000 people, literally. But this is, I call it a knockout panel. You see, some people would say, oh, that's a curtain. Underneath that curtain is a window. Outside of that window is the new ballroom. So I said, I'll get out of here, and I'll let you guys, if you want to see a beautiful structure going up, complex, safe things that could never happen, like happened a week ago. That was a pretty bad situation. You can't have 1,000 units over the ballroom with an entrance right next to where you are for a lot of reasons. So if you want, we're going to open that up. I think later on you'll open it up, let the people take a look, and it would be pretty good. Not as exciting as looking at oil wells like Chris gets to do all day long, right? And speaking of that, we're doing well in Venezuela, right? It's working good.
Yes, we are, Mr. President.
That was good. That war took us approximately 48 minutes. And actually, we have a great relationship. And you know what? I heard the other day that the people of Venezuela are really happy. They're seeing things happen that they haven't seen in 20 years. They're working, and there's a spirit in Venezuela that they haven't had in many, many years. And the big companies are coming in now, and they're building these giant rigs because there's a lot of oil in Venezuela, a lot of other things too, and a lot of great people. And we have people in charge that are doing a fantastic job, and they're working with you, and you are doing a fantastic job. So thank you very much, Rick. Good job. Proud of you.
People of Venezuela are very thankful for your proud and bold leadership to change the trajectory of their lives. No, I want to say, as you engage with the people of Venezuela and the businesses, I will tell you that President Trump is incredibly popular with the people of Venezuela. It's a nation of 30 million people going the wrong way for 25 years. And a bold leadership of this president changed the trajectory of that country, changing the futures of all those people, wanting millions of Venezuelans abroad to go back to that country. American businesses are stampeding in to invest in that country. 25 years trying everything going the wrong way. His bold leadership and creative thinking changed the game. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a great relationship. We have hundreds of millions of barrels of oil coming out of Venezuela, going to Houston and different places to have it refined. And we're sort of, it's almost really a partnership. The man you just heard speaking, Chris, has been, he wasn't my choice. I had somebody else for Department of Energy, a fantastic man, Doug Burgum. And I said, I want you to head up energy. He says, no, there's one person better than me, better than anybody. I said, who the hell is that? Chris Wright. I said, who's Chris Wright? Tell me. And he's like the #1 guy in the whole world of this subject. And I said, well, let's talk to him. I don't know, he probably makes a lot of money if he's doing that. And he was. He's taken one of the largest salary cuts in history, I'll tell you, without question. But he's done a fantastic job. These are the people we have. We have great people. And Doug is great. He was the governor of North Dakota. He ran an incredible state. He was very successful in business. He started with a small business. He sold it for $1 billion to Microsoft. And he wanted to do what Trump did. He said, I want to be a business guy, and now I want to run. I made a lot of money. I want to run. So Doug Burgum ran, and he became a great governor for 8 years. He was term limited. And I saw him at a session, speaking session, and sort of a debating session. I thought he was great. And I said, if I win, I'm going to get that guy in. And he's now heading up, he's now the largest landlord in the world, I guess you could say, right? Department of Interior. And he's been fantastic. But he wanted Chris to be energy. So he's got all the power of the energy, but he doesn't have the land. Doug has none of the power of him, but he has the land. So I merged them. It's a friendly merger. We don't have any papers. They just get along together, right? And I think today we've announced we're drilling more oil by far than we ever have in the history of our country. More oil and gas by far. And this was just said, but this took place almost from the beginning, right? We got it started very, very early. So you're doing a great job. Doug was right. And we're also very happy with Doug because he's doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it. So one of the strongest effects of our tax cuts and tariffs is the Trump manufacturing boom is what they're calling it, because that's what we have. We have never had anything like what's happening now. And when I talk about, again, the $18 trillion, that's coming in and building places. And as we speak, American companies are ordering core capital goods for factory construction and operation expansion. And you saw the construction numbers. Now, the plants will be opening over the next period of time, pretty soon. But, you know, we just got started. And these plants are going to be opening. Right now, the big numbers, the construction jobs in the country are going through the roof. And ultimately, when the plants open, then you're going to have manufacturing jobs, because right now, the plants, many of them haven't opened, but they're under construction. When you see the final numbers, you're not going to even believe what you are seeing, because there's never been any construction boom of factories like we have right now. We lost our car industry. We lost 54% of our car industry to Canada, Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea, other countries. 54% over the years, over a period of probably 30, 35 years. And they're all coming back. They're all coming back. And they're coming back at levels that has never been seen before. It's pretty amazing. What you see, you'll see it. It can't be disguised by our friends that would, I guess, I don't know. I see so many of them smiling, having a good time, that I actually think they probably like us. I think their bosses say, treat Trump as badly as you possibly can. But they had so many good faces, and so many, they are a lot of professionals there. But it's the highest rate in over 4 decades. And under 4 years of the Biden administration, real wages for manufacturing workers fell. It fell $840. Under 1 year of Trump, wages for factory workers, manufacturing factory workers, increased by $2,500. So think of that. Under Biden, it fell $840. And under Trump, it went up $2,500. That's quite a difference. And as I said, you haven't seen the real effect, because these factories are being built right now. When they open, you're going to see numbers that are much greater than that. And a lot of these government workers, good people, and, you know, I don't blame them for liking what they had, but they're going to all be in this system, and they're going to be making double and triple what they were making in government. We have a country again, because you can't have a country that works where you have literally 10 people to do one job. You can't have it. You can't have a great country. Earlier this year, I visited Costa Steel in Rome, Georgia, before I took office. China and other countries were taking more of our industry all the time, just more and more. And Costa was hit very hard. Their core business dropped from 2 shifts to 6 days a week. And the 2 shifts were during my administration, by the way. But now it's down to and then ultimately is down to 1 shift, operating 3 days, and it was going down to 1 day, and they expected to go out of business. There was no stopping it. And now, thanks to the tax cuts and the steel tariffs that I put on, Costa is thriving like never before. I just heard from them, and they're at now full shifts, 2 full shifts, 6 days a week, and they may go to a 3rd shift round the clock. Think of that, round the clock. They've never had that before, and they have the backlog of 7 months long of things that they're building, steel products, great. And they said, I was with the gentleman that owns the company. He thought it was going out of business. And now he said, now I have a great business in just a period of literally a year and a half. It's, we thought we couldn't stop it. And he said, all of my friends up and down the line, they have different businesses, factories, big businesses, but they all thought they were going out of business. And now they're all doing better than they've ever done before. And they've gone from employing, in this case, Costa, 50 people to 125. The 50 people is going down to about 14 or 15. And now they're at 125, and they're looking for additional people to work. And I want to thank their president, Andrew Seville, who I think maybe is here. Andrew, are you here someplace? Where are you, Andrew? You want to say something? He's so he really understood what was happening, and I think it would be nice. You weren't supposed to speak, so I hope you're not nervous.
The most thing that took us right to the top was your tariffs. And I think everybody in here that runs a small business, the tariffs had an effect on you one way or another, and that is just taking us, all the jobs that were going to China, you brought them back, and it really took us to the next level. And we were honored to have you come down to our company. So thank you for having me back here. I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm going to get off the stage. Thank you.
You know what? It's a little truth to that, Rick. Sometimes you don't think you're going to introduce somebody, they're in the audience, but they don't know, and they end up doing better because they speak from the heart. They have no choice. They can't think about all night long, what am I going to say? And then you get up and you bore the person. No, it's very good. You speak from the heart, and that's true. Tariffs were a very big part. We had an unfortunate ruling out of the Supreme Court, but the good news is I'm able to do it a different way. They said use the other way. There was no reason for that. It was terrible, actually terrible, but it'll have no impact other than I hate to pay people back tariffs, $159 billion. I have to pay them back when a little half sentence, any money taken in to this point does not have to be paid back. We would have saved $159 billion, and I cannot figure it out. How could anybody do that? But they did it. We have other ways of tariffing, as you know, we're already doing it. And actually, they're more tested, they're stronger, a little bit more complex. I like to keep it as simple as possible. And in many ways, they'll be better. It'll be better. I just want you not to think that because of that decision, the tariffs will actually be higher. It's turning out they're going to end up being higher. But it's made our country rich, really rich. And it's like Andrew said, I mean, without them, it would be nothing we could do to save your country, nothing. It's the greatest word. Remember, I used to say it's my favorite word in the dictionary, the word tariff. And then the fake news got on me. They said, well, what about God? What about your wife? What about your family? What about? So they were just killing me because I said it's my favorite word. I said, all right, it's my fifth favorite word. So it's my fifth favorite word. But because of tariffs and, the proper use of tariffs, so you have to use them in a certain way. But we've been ripped off in this. I've been talking about it for years. We've been ripped off in this country for decades. We lost our car industry. Think of it. There's a person here making utensils, beautiful forks and knives and things. Where is that person? It's around here, somewhere. So, and he was telling me, he said, China's coming in and they're ripping us. And we have a tariff, it's 25%, but it's not enough because, they have certain advantages that you're not going to have. But the advantage you have is you have a higher quality product. And I'm going to be able to take care of that very easily, just by putting it up. You'll be treated fairly. It's just really tough. And it's amazing you've done as well as you've done, but you did that because of the quality of your product. We have such quality. North Carolina, if you take a look, I'm going to put tremendous tariffs on. That process has already started. It takes me longer now because of the Supreme Court decision. I have to go through a process. It's ridiculous, but we don't like it. We like to do what's right and get it done instead of having to do a report, which is going to come out and say the exact same thing that everyone knows. But you can tell the people in North Carolina that, we used to have a great furniture business. I built a lot of hotels, and a lot of different buildings where I need furniture. I would go to North Carolina. These were great artists. And China essentially put them out of business because we didn't have a president that was willing to do it. Happened before my term. They've been out of business for a long. I used to go down there and see these people. They were artists with wood. I'd say, I'd like to make the handle a little bit slimmer. Ding, 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 ding. It was like magic. And we lost that whole thing. You can say it's coming back because we're putting tariffs on furniture where you'll be able to more than compete. We have to protect our businesses. Same thing with you in the utensil business. Your stuff is so beautiful, but it's very tough when you're competing against something that is cheap and, because of the lack of protection that you've been given, it just puts you out of business. So you actually said, thank you for the tariffs, but the tariffs really aren't high enough, in my opinion, in that particular thing. But with the furniture, we're going to bring all the furniture back to North Carolina, and you're going to see it'll be as robust as it was 25, 30 years ago. the greatest furniture people in the world, and they got stolen. They really didn't take them. They found people in China that could do it, and all those people got put out of jobs, and their kids have that same ability. And you watch what happens, how good it is in North Carolina, because I've had to go through a process to get that approved, but now it's approved, and you're going to be again the furniture capital of the world, because nobody can do that quality. And I know the quality. I buy a lot of things from China, and because I was forced to. You know, when I was in the hotel business, I was forced to buy from China because of pricing, and because of for other reasons. What I wasn't getting was the kind of quality that we were getting here. And now you'll have a combination of both. So you can let that be known. I don't know if that's breaking news or not for these people, but to me, it's very important. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and now we have I love North Carolina. My administration is also committed to ensuring that American small businesses have access to the credit and capital that they need under Administrator Loeffler, who's phenomenal. She's And she's got a great husband, Jeff, and he's a friend of mine, and he's a very successful man, and he's a great man, and he's got a great wife, and I was so happy getting her in this position. She replaced a woman who is a very legendary woman, Linda McMahon, who's now in education. She's doing a great job. She's moving education back to the States where it belongs. But last year, Kelly, our Small Business Administration issued $7 billion in loans to 11,000 new startups, as well as $1.3 billion in loans to 3,000 veteran-owned small businesses, and $3.2 billion, yeah, big business, you know. That's why I say, how can we call it small business? $3.2 billion to American manufacturers, helping restore those beautiful words, made in the USA. Well, we're using them more and more. We have things being made here that nobody thought it was even possible for it to come back. Like you'll see in North Carolina with the furniture, it'll come back very, very rapidly. So Kelly, I'd like to ask you to say a few words, please.
Mr. President. First of all, you are the most pro-growth, pro-small business president in American history. Thank you. It's such an honor to join you here at the White House to recognize National Small Business Week, and you're the greatest commander-in-chief ever, but also one of America's greatest businessmen, and small businesses know that. They see that this administration is shifting power and capital from fraudsters and Washington bureaucrats back to Main Street job creators, just like we have gathered in this room today. Fair trade, deregulation, and the working family tax cuts and the one big beautiful bill, they are powering real opportunity that I see all over as I travel this country, especially after 4 crushing years of Bidenomics and decades of shipping our jobs and our industries overseas, hollowing out our local communities. That is ending. As I travel the country each week, and Mr. President, I've traveled with you from Iowa's Machine Shed restaurant to Georgia's Coosa Steel Factory. America First policies are restoring the American dream on Main Street to new heights. At generational businesses like Jimmy's Famous Seafood, at industrial innovators like Prince Manufacturing in Georgia and Blue Patriot in Nebraska, who are building big, beautiful new buildings thanks to the working family tax cuts. Today, 98% of US manufacturers are small businesses. They're a critical part of securing our supply chains, and while they contribute to national strength across all kinds of industries, from energy to agriculture to defense and aerospace, America's big manufacturers rely on these producers and their skilled workers. And that's why President Trump's economic agenda means Made in America is coming back, and it's coming back fast. Now, at the Trump SBA, we're helping to fuel that growth as the most free enterprise agency in the federal government. In 2025 alone, we guaranteed a record $45 billion in lending to 85,000 small businesses through local banks. That's an all-time record at the SBA, and we did it with 53% fewer staff at the agency. That capital is driving the job creation that you see. Record small business formation. This year, record small business formation and growth in communities all across America. It's such an honor to highlight the award winners that are here today and the vital role of hardworking small businesses that do their jobs every single day. They are America's backbone. From our farms and restaurants to our construction companies and our manufacturers and our trucking companies. Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing that small business is big business. 250 years ago, our founding fathers were also entrepreneurs, small businessmen. With the America First agenda, that legacy continues. America is open for business again. Thank you, Mr. President.
That's a great job. I just want to sort of end by, I'll give you a little common sense business. A lot of you run your business for a couple of reasons: talent, brilliance in many cases, but also common sense. And I'll give you just one little anecdote. We have a beautiful, potentially beautiful, built in 1922, it's a long time ago, reflecting pond in between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. It's 2,500 feet long. That's taller than, I think, any building in the world. That would be if you lay it sideways. It's 2 Empire State Buildings, more than that, and very wide, 167 feet. And for years, they've wanted to fix it, rebuild it. It's granite. The stone is good. Granite's great, but it was leaking because it's little pieces of granite. Very, very expensive when they did it, but it always leaked from the day they built it. In 1922, and it leaked badly. And they've looked at fixing it for decades, really fixing it. And it wasn't working. It was too expensive. And the final price we got fairly recently was to fix it as $350 million because they were going to take the granite out and they were going to replace it with new granite, new stone, tighter joints, all that. It was going to take 3.5 years. And I heard about it and I called Doug Burgum and I said, Doug, what do you think? I built a lot of swimming pools, hundreds of swimming pools in different times. I said, let me look at that surface. So it's granite. So granite is virtually indestructible, but it was filthy dirty. It started because I called because it was so dirty. It was disgusting. People called me and they'd say, it's a shame. I'm looking at the Washington Monument and this thing is terrible. The water is dirty. There's cartons of stuff in it and everything is just so horrible. And I said, wow, that's terrible. We can't have that. I actually had Secret Service. I said, drive over there. I want to see it. Sir, we won't be able to. I said, just do it. And when it was terrible, I looked at it, terrible. So think of that. So it's going to cost $350 million. So we're going to take the granite out, put new granite, and think, consider it like as tall as the tallest building in the world, if not taller, and laying on its side. And I said, wow, that's terrible. $350 million. It's going to take 3.5 years. 3.5 years it'll be, and 3.5 years means 5 years. $350 million means $500 million to fix it. And I said, I built all these swimming pools and they're phenomenal. In 20 years, I have one up the road where it's a great club on the Potomac River. And I bought it up at 21 years ago, and I built a beautiful Olympic-sized pool. And I asked the other day, I said, how good is the pool? Oh, it's beautiful, sir. I looked at it, it looks like it's brand new. It was done 20 years ago. So I have some very good contractors, some good, one or two in particular. And I said the 3 best. I said, do me a favor, fellas. Go take a look at the reflecting pool that sits in between Lincoln and Washington, the beautiful, what should be beautiful reflecting pool. And one of them who came back who's really, I would say, the best, but they were all good. He came back, he said, what an exciting job, sir. I said, so how long would it take you to redo it? He said, well, we have to fix the surface a little bit, create something good and solid underneath. That'll take about a week. And let's say it'll take me to put the new material. Now, the swimming pool is good, but he said, sir, I'd get commercial grade. What is that? He said, that's much stronger, much heavier, meant for commercial. It actually looks better. It's more expensive, sir. I said, that's okay. I said, how much will it cost? I think we can do it for about $1.9 million. So he said, what color would you like, sir? And I said, well, you know, that beautiful color that we have in Florida. He said, this is in Florida, sir. We don't have that green blue around here. We have blue water. But he gave me a choice of 50 colors. Now I'm going crazy. I'm saying, now think of it. If we put the granite, you know what your color is? It was gray. It was gray. Not a good looking color. So even if you did it, it's not good. So I said, we'll do a beautiful job. I think that I'd like to recommend a color that I've used before. It's beautiful. What's it called? It's called American Flag Blue. I said, that's the color I want. So I said, how can you have a better color than American flag? We had a gray, disgusting, dirty. It showed all the dirt. It showed all the everything. So we finished it about 2-3 days ago. They ripped the hell, you know, they roughened the surface. They left everything there. The demolition would have cost $60 million to take the stone out and put new stone in. So we cleaned it, we steam cleaned it, we sand blasted it, we pebble blasted, you know, pebble blasting, that's a serious sand blast. That's really, because it's granite, it's so strong. We roughened the stone so it's a good surface, got it immaculate, it's beautiful. But it still has the lines in between. You're gonna have leaks all over the place. And we filled in some areas, and the work started a few days ago. And I wanted to go today. I said, let me see these small business people. And then I want to go over and see the contractors to see how they're doing. But Secret Service was not thrilled. They were not thrilled to be standing in the middle of a pool with lots of buildings looking down. You know, we have to be a little conscious of that, right? Chris, you'll have a new boss someday. And I don't know if you'd like that. So here's the story, just in a nutshell. For a much better job, 1.9 million, 1 week. Because I don't call actually the Parks Department did a great job. They cleaned, they had a lot of men cleaning, they're scrubbing the scum off years and years of decay and bacteria and everything else you can think. It was terrible, actually. It was worse than the people would tell me. They say how bad it looked. It was much worse. The Parks Department did a fantastic job. They got it down to the surface, and these guys came in and made the surface really, really good. And now the fun starts, and they're putting it down. So, ready? 1.9 million versus $350 million. A great, beautiful blue color, American flag blue, as opposed to gray, right? What is not gray? But it's one of those things. And instead of 3.5 years, it's 1 week. So think of that. 1 week, so everybody say, well, yeah, but you can't compare this. Yeah, you can. It's much better. It's a much better job. This will last for at least 50 years, and you'll never have a leak. It's very strong. You couldn't, if you had a knife, I don't want to give anybody ideas. If you had a knife, you can't even cut it. So strong, so powerful. It's like powerful rubber. It is beautiful, sealed. And I looked at just one of the little pieces that they did to finish. It's like a piece of glass, beautiful color, beautiful everything. You could never get anything like that. And just think of it. So for a tiny fraction of the cost and a tiny fraction of the time, we end up with the most beautiful thing that you'll ever see. And I look so forward to that opening up. And it's sort of a business thing. It's a common sense thing. First thing I thought of when I heard $350 million, because I'm the one that said, let's get it done. But they had done studies for years because they wanted to get it done. Never got done. Probably so expensive they couldn't afford to do it, really. But there's a thing, common sense, right? So we said, well, swimming pool looks so beautiful. Wouldn't that be nice? So for a tiny fraction of the time, a tiny fraction of the cost, we end up with a much better product. And this is what you people do with small businesses all the time. It's what Kelly does in running this. She comes to me a lot of times with ideas for less money. It's a better job. So I thought I'd tell you that because this just happened. This just happened. If you go down, if you'd like to see them doing it, on your way back home, take a trip down to the reflecting pond, or they call it the reflecting pool. Some people call it the reflecting lake, but the word reflecting is always a part of it. They call it different things, but reflecting is always a part. Last but not least, we have someone who is helping us lead the revival in American manufacturing, this year's National Small Business Person of the Year. I want to hire him. How big is this business? I want to get in. Mark La Mancha. And he's a fantastic guy, and he's the owner of Hometown Products, a metal casting and 3D printing company near Youngstown, Ohio. Here, it's amazing what he's done. In 2008, the company was nearing bankruptcy. It looked like it couldn't be saved, but that's when Mark patented a system to boost productivity at the company by more than 400%. Mark would like to use you in government. How would you, if you could use that system in government, that would be very nice. He transformed Hometown into a pioneer in 3D printing, and he's leading everybody. Then today, they're North America's leading producer of 3D printed sand cores and molds, which is a big business. And Mark, we're here to honor you today. And if you could come up, we're going to give you a little something. I want to get one of them for myself. I'll honor myself. Would you like to say a few words?
Mr. President and Administrator Loeffler, I would like to thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to represent the 36 million small business people, to be an ambassador for the largest part of our economy. And I would like to thank you from the Hometown Products Industrial Athletes team that I have the privilege of serving every day as their head coach. But even more, I would like to thank you, Mr. President, for restarting and rebooting our economy. And manufacturing used to be 38% of our economy, and it's down to 9%. And I know that you love America, and I know that you want to restart that. You know, in the last 3 months, the PMI index has gone up 3 months in a row because of that restart. We have 10% increase in hiring, and we'll be able to buy more of those $1 million printers that we're able to print the fight, fight, fight Trump statue that was involved. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for loving America. And, you know, manufacturing is my favorite sport. So let's make America manufacture again.
That's good. Great job. I heard it's a great company. Done a fantastic job with it. Thank you very much. And you're right. Well, we lost our manufacturing business, and I used to listen to President Obama say, "You'll never get manufacturing back. It's the biggest business in the world if you get it back." And we're heading to that. I think we'll be higher than at any time, fairly soon. When these places open, I think we'll be higher than at any time in the history of our country. And we used to be a manufacturing capital. We were the manufacturing capital of the world, and then it got taken away. The chips went to Taiwan, and all they had to do is say, if you sell your product back into the country, there's going to be 100% tariff, and nobody would have left. And, you know, I made a investment, Intel, chip maker, the biggest in the world, and then it got taken away because of bad politics, actually, because the politicians, the presidents, no president protected that industry. So all of a sudden you have this superpower over in Taiwan, but they're coming back. As you know, we have the biggest companies coming into, they're pouring into this country. They know that the tariffs go to a certain extent, and then they go up, up, up as we go. But I will say that it's so sad to see what's happened, but it makes me so happy to say we're bringing it back. And as sure as you're sitting there, I mean, these are companies that are fully committed. There are many under construction. They're on their way. And when I look at what happened to our country, I used to make speeches as a private person. I always loved politics, but I never thought I'd be doing this. But as a private person doing well, I used to just marvel at the fact that the car companies were leaving Detroit and leaving our country at levels that were just, I mean, I said, you're not going to have any cars soon if you don't do something. And all they had to do is say, you can leave our country, you can have lots of fun building your cars, but if you think you're going to sell it back into our country for no cost, you're wrong. But nobody said that. Not one president, even presidents I liked, but they were bad on trade. You've never had a good president on trade, and now you do. And we're bringing them back at levels never seen before. So we're going to have something. And as far as small business is concerned, you are really the driver. I love that story because that's the kind of story that half of the people, I'm not sure about all of them, I'm not sure about Rick, but most of the people in this room would have thought of that. They would have said, well, what about surfacing that stone, that existing stone? But it's just, one example. It's such a great one because it's massive amounts of money and time, a disaster of construction for years. They'll be building and building and building, a mess. What common sense is all about. And you people more than anything, I know you all indirectly. If I don't know you, I still know you. But the fact is, it's common sense. And if you didn't have common sense, you would not have a good business, and you wouldn't have a good small business, big business, or any other business. So I just want to congratulate Mark. I want to congratulate. That's a great tribute, really. You've done an amazing job. But I want to congratulate everybody in the room. You're fantastic people. And we are really, this is the golden age of America. I really believe it. Last year, we were scoffed at. I tell the story often that the king of Saudi Arabia, a year and a half ago when I was over there, he said, America was a dead country. We didn't think we'd be investing. We didn't think it would be appropriate to invest there. We were a dead country. And now, President, you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. That was 7 or 8 months ago. We're a lot hotter than we were then. We had to do this little excursion, but the excursion is the stock market's higher now than it was when I assumed the market would be down 25%. And that was worth it to get rid of lunatics that would have nuclear weapons that can wipe out countries with the push of a button. You can't do that. So I had to do it because it should have been done 47 years. It should have been done by many presidents or other countries. It should have been done a long time ago, but we're doing it and we have no choice. And I'm very proud to be doing it. But the amazing thing, I thought would be down 20, 25%. I thought the market would be down. The market's at new highs despite all of it. And so the market is genius and they see what's happening and they get it. But I just want to say it's an honor to be with you and keep going. Small businesses, some of your small businesses like yours are going to be large businesses very soon. And it's an honor to be with you, Kelly and Chris and all of the people that work with me. What a great job you do. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, do you think the ceasefire will hold? Sorry.
That was great. What did you guys think about that? What did you think? How many Trump supporters did you have? Right. Okay. Are you guys ready for Pete Hegseth? All right, guys, let's go. Thank you for being respectful in the chat. I don't have any moderators tonight. Greatest arsehole in history. No, I'm sorry. All right, you guys, I got something for you. Hegseth, honors National Guard heroes from DC Attack. Let's go. Justin, right? All right, you guys, let me bring you in. This is the latest from Pete Hegseth. Let's see. How do I do? No. There we go. All right, you guys.
Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors and the singing of the national anthem led by Technical Sergeant Robert Hartfield.
Everyone
followed by
listen.
the
We need to
invocation
get
delivered by
patriotic
Jonathan
right
Clinton
now.
Tompkins.
Let's listen to the national anthem. I think he's gonna sing the national anthem. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe not. Maybe we got comment.
Colors, hope, cups, present.
I was in the military, you guys. I love this stuff. Matt. Oh,
Can
yes.
you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the...
No, what happened? Oh, sorry, guys. I was so into that. I don't know what happened. I guess I was into it a little too much. I guess.
Let us pray.
Sorry, guys. Let's pray.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we request your loving presence to be with us as we gather,
Service, Eric.
as we honor, and as we celebrate today's service members. Today, we partake in a day that is never to be forgotten. The heroic response to a cowardly act of terror in our nation's capital will always be etched in history. Lord God, may we all cherish each moment. May we cherish each other. May we cherish their selfless service. Of Major Reynolds and Stanfield. Romans chapter 12 and verse 10 says, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Today, God, we honor them. And for them, we give thanks. In Jesus' mighty and precious name I pray. Amen.
Yeah. I'm not gaslighting, stop it.
Please be seated.
Please double tap that screen for me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Adjutant General of West Virginia, Major General James Seward.
Good morning, and thank you for being here today. To our distinguished host, Secretary Hegseth, thank you for honoring our troops in this way. To Eva Lee and Gary, who couldn't be here today, Gary wanted to send his regrets. He has to be here a couple times next week, and he really wished he could be here today, but he wanted me to tell our warriors, you had a choice, fight or flight, and you chose fight, and he's forever grateful for that. To Jason and Melody and Andy, thank you. Thank you for bringing our miracle Andy here today. Governor, thank you for being here and for your steadfast support of our National Guard and their families. It's really appreciated. Senator Capito, thank you. Congressman Moore, Chairman Kane, Director Seralta, thank you. And to all of our distinguished guests and our National Guard, I see a lot of West Virginia faces out there. Honorable Charlie Young, West Virginian, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Majors Stanfield and Reynolds, we are so proud of you. When I see you, I think Mountaineer pride worldwide. You represent the finest among us. I want you to know we still pray for you every day across the world, just like we do for the Beckstroms and Wolfs. Majors, as we look at what the West Virginia National Guard does around the world every day, what our mission is, you embody that mission, that vision, our priorities. The warrior ethos drives us every day in word, deed, and action. Our commitment is to be the most lethal, responsive, and cohesive force on the planet. And you guys are evident of that. Thank you. We will leave no fallen comrade behind. November 26th, these two gentlemen faced uncertainty. Uncertainty like most of us have never faced. Their training and commitment overcame that uncertainty, just like our country has done for centuries. You don't have to study history for very long. 1775, George Washington calls for riflemen for the American Revolution, and future West Virginians marched 600 miles in 21 days to Boston to join George Washington. 1860, there's division and uncertainty across our nation, and we overcame that uncertainty. 1940, Hitler storming across Europe, taking country after country, and there is great uncertainty at home. The National Guard and the Joint Force removed that uncertainty for a lasting freedom for the world. Thank you to our heroes and to all of you for being here today. For Sarah, we pray for you, and we love Sarah every day. We speak her name often, and we remember her with great pride and admiration. Majors, I continue to pray for you every day and for your families, and you have my mobile number, and you know you can reach out to me 24/7. May God bless you and our leaders. May God bless West Virginia, our National Guard, and may God bless America. And as you hear me say often, press on, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor of the State of West Virginia, Governor Patrick Morrisey.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here today and to see so many familiar faces, and especially see Andrew here today. I know I saw you in some different circumstances, but you're doing great. And I want to make sure that as we're commemorating the wonderful, brave men who stepped up to protect their lives, we're recognizing Andrew and Sarah as well. And Emily, it's wonderful to see you, and Melody and Jason. Thank you so much. This is an incredible day. Secretary Hegseth, thank you. This means a lot, not only to the brave men who stepped forward on that day, but for you recognizing what their service meant to our country and to West Virginia. All West Virginians are so deeply thankful for what you did. Words can't describe it. I know that on that day, I had a chance to watch and learn a little bit of the bravery that you demonstrated. And I remember speaking with General Seward and talking about that extensively. The state of West Virginia owes a deep debt of gratitude for your courage and your instinct under fire. That's why I was so excited to come here today. The medals that you're receiving today, they demonstrate extraordinary heroism, but not just in combat. They demonstrate that heroism when instinct and character take over, when you run to the fire and you put your own life on the line to help one of your colleagues. That's incredible. And I really can speak for the people of the state of West Virginia who are so appreciative of everything you do. When there are no scripts and the cost is potentially your own life, that decision means everything. Major Edwin Stanfield, Major Ryan Reynolds, we are grateful as a state for what you're doing. You've served our country with amazing distinction, including deployments across the world, and you are the very definition of courage. Sergeant Andrew Wolf and Sarah Beckstrom, these were two individuals that were going about doing their business for a very fine, a mighty mission. They're very popular among their colleagues, and I can tell you that their service will never be forgotten. We always pray for the memory of Sarah, and we're so grateful to see you, Andrew. I love seeing your smile and talking to you as you've been getting better and better. We lost Sarah, and our heart's going to remain with her always, but we're going to continue to keep her in our prayers. You know, when I think about being here today, and I think about the bravery that you two gentlemen displayed, I have to believe that while your upbringing was incredible, perhaps there's that little bit of West Virginia fortitude that came to you that day. Because West Virginia has so many incredible patriots who volunteer for our state, and we're known for that over a very prolonged period of time. One of the highest military enlistment rates in the nation. And perhaps a little bit of that West Virginia calling came to you that day. I am so grateful to be here, and I want to thank everyone who supports the men and women in the Guard and in our armed services. Because service is never served alone. I know that from my dad and my mom who worked at a VA, my dad who fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
That is annoying. What the hell?
Everyone who stepped up, friends, family.
Where's he? Let me get past this guy.
We have a lot
That is freaking annoying. Oh, hello.
Part of a story
Sorry,
that's
guys.
told as the scriptures, and I'll get there in a moment. But first, I look out and we see Eva Lee. We are with you today. We are praying for you. We are praying for your daughter, Sarah, what she gave for this nation. She is not forgotten. She is not forgotten today. She's not forgotten any day. And it is her memory that stiffens our resolve each and every day. So thank you for being here. Thank you for, from that night to today, the courage you've shown, the strength you've shown, and the support you've shown throughout the force, which means an incredible amount. And then Andy, one day I'm looking down at him in a hospital bed. The next day I'm looking up, he's throwing out the first pitch. An incredible human being, truly a miracle. You have a Melody, you have a praying mother.
That's great.
and an incredible father. Melody and Jason, it's good to see you both and your family. Just from that bedside and those prayers and more prayers and more prayers to the miracle of today. What an honor it is to see you again, be with you again. So many great things in front of you. And again, it's the moments that day that are the reason we're here. A wounded American, a lost American, yet the display of heroism. So before I continue, I do want to, in memory of Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, like to do a moment of silent prayer, if you would.
We pray a lot.
And amen.
Yeah.
You mentioned a story as old as the scriptures. When the people of Keilah were under attack by the Philistine army, their harvest being stolen from them, the people living in fear. The Lord said to David, save Keilah. David and his men were wary, and he asked the Lord what he should do. And the Lord said, arise, and I will hand the Philistines to you. So David and his men answered the call, and they went. They fought the Philistines, wounded and killed them, and saved the people of Keilah. These heroes before us today, they're also part of the story that played out on our rugged frontier. When the citizens of Dodge City, Kansas, were being terrorized, pillaged, and shot by marauders, a tough 30-year-old frontier marshal named Earp answered the call. He chased the attackers out of town, and during a midnight pursuit, Saw River downed the ringleader. There's a line about those days in the West that says, you cannot submit to evil without allowing evil to grow. Each time the good are defeated, or each time they yield, they only cause the forces of evil to grow stronger. These heroes before us today, they're part of the story that unfolded 47 years ago in a place called Tehran. The 52 American hostages taken by Iranian terrorists for 444 days. When their captors demanded they denounce America, they refused. In defiance, one American wrote on the wall of his cell, long live the red, white, and blue. And so, the two heroes before us today, their particular story culminates on the corner of 17th and I Streets in our nation's capital. A city that when the guardsmen were deployed wasn't so different from that place in the Old Testament, or the American frontier, or Tehran. Lawless streets racked by gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. These guardsmen, then and today, made our capital safe. So on a tranquil day, the day before Thanksgiving, there stood these two Americans, but these two here, guarding our nation. After service in the Middle East, Afghanistan, and on the border with Mexico, their dedication to and love for this country brought them here to this city, our nation's capital, to protect American citizens. It was a criminal alien terrorist bent on murder and destruction that had journeyed to our capital. He raised a stolen gun against our National Guardsmen. A brave soldier and a brave airman, both born in Maryland, but forged, as was mentioned, I think there's a lot of West Virginia in there. Forged in West Virginia, they pushed forward. They neutralized the threat. They moved civilians to safety. So you see, these heroes are part of humanity's oldest story. Good versus evil. Courage versus cowardice. Fight versus flight. They chose good that day. And we know what side this soldier and airman are on, the side of the United States of America, the red, white, and blue. Major Reynolds and Stanfield, you are the essence of what General Patton called, quote, the real hero, the warrior who never lets his fear of death overpower his honor, his sense of duty to his country, and his innate manhood. Congratulations. Thank you for your courage that day. Thank you for your service to this nation. Thank you for the example that it sets to the country and to the world. When in that moment, you could have made a number of different choices. I watched the tape, everybody else watched the tape. An impossible situation, almost unforeseen, unfolding in a matter of seconds. Yes, there's training. Yes, there's instinct. There's a lot of things, but ultimately there's a choice, and you chose action. You chose courage over fear. You chose to put your body in that, at risk on behalf of other human beings, on behalf of their families, on behalf of the rest of your unit. That is a choice we need to celebrate. That is an action we need to honor. That's why today we want to recognize you before the nation and ensure the nation understands that these are the types of Americans we should be celebrating and emulating. The types of people I want my kids looking up to and knowing your name, not the names of celebrities or TV hosts, but the names of heroes, the names of men who put it all on the line when it mattered the most. And so we thank God for you. We thank God for the lives you saved. We thank God for the lives you protected. And we thank God for your lives and all that God weaved into your life to bring you to that moment, writing a more beautiful story than we could have ever conceived of. So God bless you. And how about we pin some medals on these guys? Thank you.
Would Major Reynolds and Major Stanfield please join Secretary Hegseth on stage? Major Reynolds, please step forward. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress 2 July 1926, has awarded the Soldier's Medal to Major Ryan S. Reynolds, West Virginia National Guard, for heroism not involving actual conflict with an enemy on 26 November 2025 during a targeted shooting attack on National Guard personnel in Washington, D.C. Major Ryan Reynolds advanced towards active gunfire to assist wounded service members. Without regard for personal safety, he subdued the attacker, allowing first responders to render life-saving aid, protect civilians, and assist responding law enforcement personnel while under threat of his life. Major Reynolds' courageous actions directly contributed to saving lives and preventing additional casualties. His heroism is in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon himself, the West Virginia National Guard, and the United States Army. Major Stanfield, please step forward. Citation to accompany the award of the Airman's Medal to Edwin O. Stanfield. Major Edwin O. Stanfield distinguished himself by heroism involving voluntary risk of life in Washington, District of Columbia on 26. On that date, Major Stanfield responded immediately to an active shooter incident that critically wounded 2 service members. After an armed assailant opened fire on National Guard members conducting routine security operations, Major Stanfield advanced towards the gunfire and the known danger area. Demonstrating exceptional composure, he assessed the situation, directed civilians to safety, and moved to assist the National Guard members who sustained life-threatening injuries. While still exposed to an uncertain and rapidly evolving threat, Major Stanfield took actions to subdue the assailant, then worked in concert with local law enforcement to secure the scene, maintain casualty care, and ensure the orderly arrival of emergency medical services. His leadership, calm execution, and unwavering commitment to securing the scene exemplified selfless service far beyond the normal call of duty. The exemplary heroism displayed by Major Stanfield reflects great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Please stand for the benediction delivered by Chaplain Clinton Tompkins.
That was great.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, as we conclude this ceremony, it is my prayer that the legacy of these 2 men are forever honored.
No, what? Oh, well, you guys.
As we honor and recognize these heroic acts, that I am reminded of why heroism was warranted. It was warranted due to the evil in this world. We're reminded of how far humanity can be from the cross, but still yet how close the cross is to humanity. All due to your faithfulness, oh God. Lord, we ask your many blessings upon these men, their families, all of our service members, and our great nation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the departure of the official party.
Wow, that's great. Look at that. You guys ready for a break? You guys ready for a break? How you guys talking crap about America? We live in this country. You tell them, Mona. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's see. Here, let's go here. Hang on, you guys. I got you. Let's switch gears.
Morning, everybody. Today we are here to talk about our progress here at the Justice Department to hold meat packers accountable. As you all know, last November, the president tasked the department to investigate the costs and prices of beef. As a result, we prioritized investigating potential antitrust violations in U.S. cattle and beef markets. In the beef industry, the big four processors control over 85% of the beef processing market. Two of the big four are primarily foreign-owned. Multiple plant closures across the country, the current market structure, and high concentration in the industry indicate anti-competitive activity. Since the president's executive order, the department has been actively investigating with a review of over 3 million documents. Hundreds of industry participants, including ranchers, cattlemen, producers, and processors, have been contacted and many interviewed as part of this ongoing investigation. More broadly, the department has also executed on the president's executive order to stop anti-competitive behavior in the broader food supply market. Later this week, we will be announcing an historic settlement that will directly affect the prices of proteins like chicken, pork, and turkey. This business model allows competitors to exchange competitively sensitive information on every aspect of the protein industry and has raised the prices on chicken, raised the prices on pork, and raised the prices on turkey. The department is also working closely with Secretary Rollins and the Department of Agriculture. We've signed a memorandum of understanding that allows us to share information aimed at protecting competition in agricultural inputs like seeds and fertilizer. But there is more work to do, and we need your help. I want to remind everyone and anyone in the industry that if you have information about antitrust crimes, about price fixing, bid rigging, market allocation, or even procurement fraud, the Department of Justice wants to hear from you. Through our whistleblower rewards program, which is we do in partnership with the United States Postal Inspection Service, you can be financially rewarded for coming forward with information about this behavior. Just to put a fine point on it, if the information you provide helps us secure a criminal penalty in excess of $1 million, you can be entitled to recover and receive 15 to 30% of the money that we recover. So whether you're a farmer, a purchaser, a processor, you can help protect food security in America by reporting these types of violations and potentially criminal conduct. every law enforcement tool available to help reduce food prices and vigorously enforce the antitrust laws to ensure every aspect of the agricultural industry competes on a fair playing field. Now I would like to introduce our great Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and a very hearty and vigorous thank you to our acting Attorney General. He's only been on the job for, I think, a couple of weeks at this point, and the moment I called and asked for his time and his focus and his team's effort on this issue facing our country, without hesitation, Todd, you said we're all in at the Department of Justice. And so here we are today and just couldn't be more grateful. I've got a couple of larger comments to put this in context. Then I know my great partner, Director Peter Navarro from the White House, we've worked together a long time, has some thoughts. And then really the stars of the show are our ranchers who are here from Colorado, from Texas, from the West, from Idaho, and they'll have a couple of thoughts too. And then I think we'll take a couple questions at the end. Again, what an honor it is to be here alongside Attorney General Blanche. Thank you for your strong leadership. And of course, the incredible Peter Navarro, our Director of Trade and Manufacturing Policy, also joined by several members of the ranching community. Todd, Peter, and I each serve the American public in different capacities across the executive branch at the pleasure of our boss, President Donald Trump. But we are united by a single mission: to protect our great American farmers and ranchers, the American way of life, and the American consumer. President Trump has been the greatest champion in American history for our farmers and ranchers, from record-breaking investments in rural America through the Working Families Tax Cuts to opening up the global market, now 18 new trade deals for our incredible American ag products, and to most recently implementing a plan to fortify the American beef industry. And these efforts couldn't be more timely for America's ranchers, who are seeing a historic low herd size. This morning, I'll talk a little bit about and summarize that herd size crisis facing our ranchers, but how the ongoing investigation into our Big Four packers, what that means for the larger policy context, and certainly what it means for national security. Let's begin with the herd size. As of January 1st of this year, we have about 86.2 million head of cattle and calves in America. That is the lowest since the 1950s, and this year we're looking to be slightly down again. In the past decade alone, we've lost over 17% of our cattle ranchers. More than 100,000 ranches across this country are no more. The low herd size inherited by the Trump administration can be attributed to a variety of factors. The biggest one, at least from our perspective, is the radical left's ongoing assault against ranching as a way of life. For years, they used climate alarmism to wage a war on cattle in America. And when you pair that with droughts, wildfire, overregulation from previous administrations, and volatile markets, this is how we have ended up here today. Growing the herd size is an immediate problem in need of solutions, and we've already begun implementing across the government and into the states how we're going to solve for that. And we'll talk more about that as we move through the week. But already on the grazing allotments, we've opened up millions of acres in the West of the USA, which is catching like fire across the country in a good way, labeling meat and poultry and egg products as actually born, raised, harvested, and processed in America, which is a new rule. Expanding the grading pilot program to include 88 facilities in 32 states, that's smaller processors, reducing holiday and overtime inspection fees for small processors, of course, encouraging our child nutrition programs. You all have heard me say over and over, USDA spends $400 million every day on 16 nutrition programs, incentivizing those programs to purchase locally grown, processed, harvested beef. And then, of course, Bobby Kennedy and I, with our new dietary guidelines, underscoring the importance of meat, among other actions, in eating real food. So we are making big change to keep incentivizing the growth of our cattle herd and to get out of this current situation we're in. However, and this is the second part of what I want to talk about today, the consolidation in U.S. meatpacking has led to just 4 meat packers: JBS, a Brazilian-owned company, Cargill, Tyson Foods, and National Beef, another Brazilian company. Those four 85% of the U.S. processing market today. But it hasn't always been that way. The rate of this four-firm control has accelerated since the 1970s. According to USDA data, concentration for cattle slaughter of these four was only 25% in 1977 and jumped to 71% by 1992. As mentioned today, it is an astounding 85%. Notably, these four firms now own together more than 70 subsidiary companies today. They don't own them together, but in total, there are 70 subsidiary companies that are owned by these four. This has led to a frightening landscape for cattle ranchers. Industry consolidation reduces options for our ranchers looking to sell their cattle. It weakens their negotiating power, and it risks reliance upon a single buyer. Today, the concentration of larger plants opens the door to tighter coordination by the Big Four with producers and perhaps the exertion of control over them as well, given they have limited options to sell their cattle. As ranchers face fewer options for selling their animals, the Big Four grow stronger and stronger. These companies now have an unprecedented ability to wield market power and influence prices paid for cattle, definitely more so than if we had greater competition. On top of that, half of these meatpacking giants, including the largest meat packer in the world, are either foreign owned or have significant foreign ownership and control, making them a threat not just to our cattle producers, but a threat to America itself. And as time has gone on, it becomes more and more clear that food security is truly national security. One Brazilian-owned company holds roughly a quarter of the market and has a documented history of international corruption and illicit activity. The brutal reality is that such foreign ownership of meat packers has been affiliated not just with corruption, but also cartels and, as recent as last week, slave labor, which is bad enough on its own, but it's also to the detriment of America's great independent ranchers and consumers. Further, when just four firms control a market, suppliers and food prices are rocked heavily when disruptions occur. The last few years have proven that the protein sector, especially, and therefore our food security, is especially at risk when global pandemics, animal disease outbreaks, and facility issues like fires, labor disputes, foodborne illnesses, and cybersecurity attacks occur. As an example, in 2019, a fire at a Tyson slaughter plant in Kansas resulted in a 27% drop in cattle traded on the market just that following week. And in 2021, a cyber attack on JBS plants in the U.S. caused ripple effects and delayed production. President Trump is acutely aware of these challenges, as evidenced by his Truth Social directive last November, directing the Department of Justice to investigate the Big Four meat packers for potential collusion and price manipulation. Ensuring these practices do not happen will protect both producers and consumers. This also builds on our September 2025 Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Justice Antitrust Division to identify anti-competitive behaviors with respect to agricultural inputs, as such consolidation isn't just limited to meat packing, even though that's what we're talking about today. But whether it's seeds and fertilizer and other inputs, the consolidation of agriculture in America has continued unabated for decades, and it is now time to take a very hard look and begin onshoring and reshoring, as the president has so eloquently stated, so much of what we do and produce in America. Just last week, a lot of you were at our press conference on fertilizer, where we certainly underscored the need to do that. The health and diversification of all of these communities, including the packing community, is vital to our long-term national security agenda. More U.S.-owned packers in more American regions of the country provides more opportunities for our ranchers and stronger food security for our country. This strengthens ranchers' ability to market their cattle in a way that makes the most business sense to them. When small and mid-sized processors around the country succeed, the communities they serve and the ranchers they support will also succeed. In closing, I want to reiterate that these efforts are part of the Trump administration's larger plan to make America great again. and making agriculture great again. When small and medium-sized packers have a chance to compete and thrive, the cattle herd regains its former strength, and Americans across the country will gain. God bless our great farmers, our ranchers, our producers. God bless our incredible boss, President Trump, who's willing to bust the status quo whenever he believes it's the right thing to do for our country. And certainly there's been no greater partner alongside that effort than Peter Navarro, Director Navarro.
That's the egg price slayer right there. She did some of the most amazing work making sure that egg prices came down quickly, and she's on the case. If she's on the case, then things are going to be happening that are good. And General Blanche, thanks so much for hosting this. Just within a few short weeks, General Blanche has been here. We've seen a significant uptick across Justice Department, but particularly in the antitrust agency. There's a guy in back. We don't need to name him necessarily, but he's really taken no prisoners, and that's what today is about. At the White House, there is no more important war on the economic front than the war on inflation, or what the Democrats use as a buzzword, affordability. The irony, of course, there is that much of the inflation that we inherited originated from actions like them. One of the biggest problems we have is inflation in beef. And one of the reasons has to do with just the way nature has been for the last decade or more. Drought has been a very big problem. There's not much we up here can do about that. But there are policies, for example, the withholding by the Biden vegans of literally millions of acres of grazing land. And we are swiftly moving that back in to help lower costs. But the biggest thing, in my judgment, that we're suffering from, particularly in the beef market, but also General Blanche mentioned chicken and turkey and pork, is industry concentration. Both General Blanche and Secretary Rollins have alluded to this 85% control. I'll give you the nerd view as an economist who was in antitrust for a while. There's this thing that the four firms is a magic number. It's the four-firm concentration ratio that's been enshrined in Justice Department doctrine for decades. And it basically says when you approach even something like 60%, you invite collusion, either explicit or tacit. And that's not only the problem we have here, it's that half of the four are Brazilian. Half of the four are Brazilian. And in my tariff world, I remember vividly just recently when the president put tariffs on Brazil because of actions they were taking, which were harmful to the American people. What happened? The beef lobby, represented by the Brazilians, quietly threatened the White House. And we saw beef that should otherwise be on the counters sold in American grocery stores going where? China. So it's not just price gouging and price fixing we have to worry about. It's also the influence of foreigners on our supply chain and the national security issues that are associated with that. We cannot tolerate that. And so General Blanche alluded to a settlement coming up this week. I can tell you, it's supposed to be a trial in Minnesota this week. It's a company called AgriStats. What is AgriStats? This is like the mathematician's worst nightmare in terms of monopoly behavior. Basically, what the companies in this concentrated industry were doing was individually sending in data on everything, consumers, production, everything in between. And what did that computer do? It spit back what the monopoly price should be. Justice Department said, no more, no mas. That's not going to happen on our watch. And that case, I believe, is going to be settled well or at trial in a way which not only will take care of that problem, but implicates some of the bad actions that we've seen by the two American companies, Tyson's and Cargill, and JBS on the Brazilian side, along with National Beef. Although I hasten to add here that the Brazilians are far more of the problem. And it's complicated by the fact that the Brazilians, particularly JBS, hands out millions of dollars to our American political system like it's candy. And the rate of return they get on that would make a Wall Street hedge fund blush. And we got to put a stop to that. And you're going to hear from the ranchers at the front lines what they've suffered. I can tell you that a small herd and a high concentration ratio are a recipe for exactly the kind of beef inflation we get getting. The last thing I want to mention, General Branch alluded to the whistleblower program. He's really understating one of the great things Justice is doing. This is a big deal. The first award that was given to an insider was $1 million for blowing the whistle on some kind of used car scheme. Okay, think about that. And here's the reason why the whistleblower program is so important. It's because those are the folks who actually know where the bodies are buried, where the prices are fixed, where the shutdown of a meat packing house was really not because there was an electrical problem, it was something else. So I welcome my friends with the hats. I think that's a giveaway that they might be the ranchers in the room. And again, I want to thank you both for just kicking butt here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Hope your day's going well. My name is Shad Sullivan, and I am an American cattle rancher. My family and I derive 100% of our income from the beef and cattle industry. First of all, I'd like to thank Jesus Christ for his favor on this nation for 250 years. America 250. Let's go. I'd also like to thank President Trump and his administration, including the Department of Justice, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, for fighting on behalf of the American people and returning to the founding principles to defend liberty and freedom. For too long, farmers, ranchers, and American consumers have suffered at the hands of consolidated power. Just in the last generation, we have lost 665,000 beef cattle in operations, which is 50% down from 1980. We have also lost 86,000 farmer feeders, which is 1,000 head and below. This has been driven by years of mergers and acquisitions of multinational corporations and foreign meat conglomerates. That has created a level of economic and political power that too often escapes oversight and accountability. As a result, unrestrained market control by these powerful corporations has increased input costs for producers, decreased profitability, and forced many to become price takers. While at the same time, this market control drives up costs for consumers. President Trump's recognition that this level of concentration has possibly led to market control and manipulation, political leverage, and vulnerabilities in our supply chains and food security is crucial to upholding our sovereignty and safety in this nation. Restoring a fair marketplace, rebuilding a resilient American food system, and protecting the food security of this nation are critical in securing an integral marketplace that strengthens Rural America supports local economies and ensures consumer affordability. Today signals that these concerns are being taken seriously. We respect the process, and we applaud the Trump administration for taking steps forward to restore a fair and competitive marketplace for American producers and consumers. I will reiterate that food security is national security, and I submit to you today, where there is beef, there is freedom. May God bless America, and thank you very much.
Shad, thank you.
Mhm.
Well said. Well said. Shad is a fifth-generation rancher with ranches in Colorado and Texas. Hayden, I said Idaho. Did I get that right? Utah and Arizona. I was worried I'd missed the state. Utah, Arizona, sixth generation. And then the incredible Campbells right here, fifth generation Colorado ranchers too. They represent tens of thousands of some of our greatest Americans across this country. And we're just so proud to represent you and hopefully make some good change for you all moving forward. With that, we'll take questions, hopefully on topic, but yes, go ahead. If you'll introduce yourself as well.
Leah Nyland from Bloomberg. So the Justice Department had opened a meatpacking investigation in 2020 and closed it last year. Can you tell us what is different about this investigation into meatpacking?
I mean, we open and close investigations regularly. I think that circumstances change, whether it's circumstances within the Department of Justice and priorities that we have, but also within the industry. And you just heard a lot of facts and numbers and data and statistics that explain why we're doing our investigation now, why we started it, last year. And these investigations, at the risk of saying the obvious, are difficult. They take time. They take a lot of data processing of information provided by the industry, by everybody up and down the chain, and then also meetings and talking to witnesses. So I'm not going to explain or justify why a different administration shut down a different investigation, but this investigation, like we talked about, is being done, I assure you, for the right reasons, given not only what President Trump directed in the executive order, but the reality of the industry right now.
I can tell you the big difference is velocity, intent, and actual action. And you're going to see in this settlement that it is going to unleash a set of forces that are going to ripple through this industry rapidly and in a way which is going to allow us to get the bottom of this. So this is a new regime. This is a new form of moving, and it's at Trump speed.
And just very quickly, I will say, I think that perhaps more than ever before in American history, we now realize the threat to our sovereignty, to our freedom, to our liberty, as we look in total at the consolidation in America, but also the biggest priority would be the consolidation at the hands of foreign countries and foreign-owned companies. And we're not here today to talk about, for example, China owning U.S. farmland, but in 1983, China owned 2,000 acres. Today, they own almost 300,000 acres. 20 years ago, there were 40 fertilizer companies providing nitrogen fertilizer. Today, there are 3. Seeds, the same. It is a national security issue, and at the same time, we're losing thousands of these producers every year. So I think when you take all of that in total, you take an extremely aggressive president who wants to stand by rural America, return prosperity to rural America, stand by his ranchers and his farmers, make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep that way of life alive and vibrant and vigorous. I think that would explain why we're doubling down today. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dave Michaels with the Wall Street Journal. You're appealing for whistleblowers today. So are you confirming it's a criminal investigation? And then you're blaming the foreign meat packers. Are you going to focus on the foreign meat packers? How are you going to charge only foreign meat packers if you have a 4-member cartel?
I mean, I'm not going to jump to conclusions around what the results of the investigation will be. That wouldn't be fair to the folks here at the department that are working it, or to the meat packers that we're investigating. the idea of whistleblowers, of people coming forward with information they have, is one of the best and most efficient ways that we can solve antitrust violations, criminally or otherwise. And so we just want to make sure people realize, that people in this industry realize that we're putting money where our mouth is. We're not asking you to come forward and then see what happens. We're saying, if you come forward and if your information results in a finding, in a conviction, and the amount of money is over $1 million, which in this industry is not a very high bar, that you stand to recover up to 30%. And so we have to incentivize people to make a very difficult choice and come forward with information if they had it. And that's what we're trying to do. But we're not standing up here announcing the results of the investigation. We're putting a finer point on what President Trump said last year in his executive order, which is, this is a real problem. It's a national security problem. It's a price problem for American consumers, and it's a problem for the industry, for the hardworking ranchers that have existed for 5 generations, 6 generations in this country. So that's the reason behind what we're talking about today.
Result, but just the type of investigation. I mean,
can you speak up?
Just the type of investigation. Can you confirm it's predominantly a criminal investigation at this point?
I mean, these investigations, it depends. And so it depends. So yes, there are, in the antitrust space, the criminal part of the investigation is something that is done in almost every case in parallel with the civil investigation. The facts matter, intent matters. What we find from the bad participants, if there are bad participants, what role they had. So it's not as if, oh, this is just civil, or, oh, this is just criminal. It's an investigation, and if we find evidence of criminal conduct and criminal intent, we'll go from there.
Marcia.
Hi, Marcia Brown with Politico. You've talked a lot about how this will lower prices for consumers and help American ranchers. When do you expect consumers to feel that price relief at the grocery store, and for ranchers to also experience relief from this?
So, as we've outlined, Marcia, you've heard 100 times, maybe not all the reporters in the room, being at a 75-year herd low, being at this point in the market, taken in total with, as I mentioned, the last administration moving cattle, doing everything they could to basically eviscerate the cattle industry, whether that was through grazing allotments or climate change, hoax, craziness, whatever it was. On top of that, you have the droughts. Even in Nebraska, the fire they just had was in rural Nebraska, so it didn't get as much press as a lot of these wildfires do, but it was the biggest fire in Nebraska history, the 9th largest in American history. And we're not really talking about it because it was in rural America, but what that does to those ranchers. So all of that taken in total, combined with obviously the screwworm south of the border, we've had to keep the ports closed to make sure that stays out, which, thank the Lord we've been able to, against all models showing it would be here last year. But you marry that to this effort and the long-term infrastructure that we are building in order to mitigate this sort of thing from ever happening again. Marcia, I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you, we do believe that prices are going to start coming down this summer based on opening up the allotments, putting more money into mid-size and smaller processors, incentivizing our ranchers, and instead of slaughtering to keep their heifers, et cetera. I'm getting way into ag stuff now, but we are hopeful that those prices will start coming down this summer, this fall. But again, this is a massive, complicated policy challenge that we're working to fight every single day and solve for. So thank you. Yes, ma'am. And then we'll go to you in the front.
Hi, Kushita Vasan from MLEX. Could you talk about how close you are to filing a lawsuit, and have the companies been cooperating? Have you seen delay tactics? Have they been destroying documents?
So I'm not going to talk about timing because I don't have an answer. If I had an answer, I would share it with you. But just to understand that there is a lot of work that's been done, and there's a lot of work to do, and we are moving as quickly as we can. And I think that you've seen antitrust investigations in the past last more than one administration sometimes, and so go on for years and years and years and years. And there's things that we can do in the department to make sure that doesn't happen here, whether it's just making sure that subpoenas are responded to on time, making sure that we have the resources that are devoted to these investigations that should be. So I will tell you, we're doing that. So we are, this is a priority. It has been a priority. But we're not in a position where I can say, hold your breath, it's coming forward. But that's not to say that we're in it for the very long haul. We're not.
Just given that two of these companies are foreign owned, there's a risk that they might be destroying documents or not playing ball. Have you seen any delay tactics, or have they been just, not turning in documents on time?
The nature of this investigation would not allow me to talk about what we've learned in that space. So if there's a time when it's appropriate to bring charges, or if there's a time when it's appropriate to make an announcement about not bringing charges or what we're doing, we'll do that. But it's these investigations, and you can look back over history and see the meaningful antitrust investigations that have been very successful to the American consumer and the American businessman. They do take time, and it's not the kind of thing where we can provide updates along the way that will satisfy the folks that are saying, hey, President Trump issued that executive order last year. And that's one of the reasons why we thought it was appropriate to be here today, to make sure that everybody knows that this is something that we're working very hard on. Unfortunately, I can't accompany that with details about the investigation beyond what we've already said.
Yes.
Let's remember that meat is also chicken, pork, turkey. There's also fish as a protein. And when you do things like General Blanche and Secretary Rollins are doing in this space, these folks are now aware, and they're going to be hypersensitive to any kind of things that they might pull. So you might expect at the margin, beef the hardest because of the conditions, but across the meat and other issues of the ag sector, they're going to start behaving better. That's not going to forgive what they've done in the past, but these kind of actions create benefits in and of themselves as the investigation goes forward.
Thank you. We'll do one more. Yes, sir.
Yes, Jerry Hegseth from the Hagstrom Report. Is your goal to get these companies to break up to create more companies? And do you want the Brazilians to sell their interests to Americans?
I think, Jerry, the goal is to preserve a way of life of rural America, to ensure that our food security is absolute, that the importance of being able to feed ourselves, not to rely on other countries, is, again, it's absolute. And back to our founder's vision 250 years ago, and that this president, I believe, has revivified in such an incredibly remarkable way, is putting America first. And what that means is putting all of it first, but from my lane, making sure that we can feed and fuel and clothe ourselves. And these other countries are playing the long game. They've got a 100-year plan. And, we're arguing, until this president, we're arguing over who should go in what bathroom, and certain, things that in the long run don't necessarily solidify America and our national security. And so that's how important this is. I don't want to answer those questions specifically, because that's the importance of this investigation, to fully understand what we're facing, what it looks like, and what we need to do to ensure that our ranchers and our farmers and our agricultural community have everything they need, and that we also are able to reverse this trajectory of smaller and smaller producers in the country. I think that the MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement, is such a big part of this, as Americans begin to understand the importance of eating real food. Of course, the real winners in that are all Americans as we move back towards a healthier population, but also the other winners are our farmers and ranchers, who will be the ones providing the real food. And let me just finish with this. I was on a call on this issue about a month ago. It was with some smaller meat processors in North Dakota. And one of them, and very small, one of them said, for $60,000 low interest loan, I could add a grinder to my very small processing plant in rural North Dakota for $60,000, a loan from USDA. And what that would allow me to do is go from processing 1 head a week to 6. And again, processing 6 head a week is not going to feed America or feed the world, but what it will do is feed a community. And that is the goal, to get back to healthier, more locally produced food, and ensuring that it is by companies and people that have America's best interest at heart. So thank you all for being here. And I especially want to thank our Attorney General. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, you guys, did you like that? That was interesting. Whew. Are we still friends? I know I gave you guys a lot. Let me share something with you. Hang on. Here we go. Did I see a moderator in the chat? Boom. All right, here we go, you guys. Sorry. Kaiser. All right, you guys, let's check this out.
Reported on Spirit Airlines shut down over the weekend, which has led to questions about the state of low-cost airlines in this country. Many have also been dealing with high costs and competition from larger airlines that have also offered more budget-friendly options. We should know that there is a split among low-cost carriers like Southwest and JetBlue and ultra-low-cost carriers like Spirit, Frontier, and Allegiant. We'll have the CEO of budget airline Avelo in just a moment. But first, let's look at the state of low-cost airlines by the numbers. Low-cost carriers combined for 35.5% of the market share in February. That's according to reports citing data from Cirium. The largest of them, Southwest Airlines, ranks 3rd in scheduled seats among U.S. airlines, according to data this month from the travel data company OAG. That places Southwest among a group of 4 airlines, along with American, Delta, and United, accounting for 76% of the market, according to OAG. Spirit, meanwhile, was down 56% compared to 1 year ago in the same analysis. Experts have pointed to rising fuel costs as one of the latest issues leading to Spirit's shutdown. The price in recent days reached $4.13 per gallon, according to Argus. Other lower-cost airlines had struggled with those prices. A group of them, including Spirit, recently requested $2.5 billion in financial relief from the Trump administration. A number of airlines, including competitors, came out with offers to help crew and passengers stranded because of Spirit's closure. Additionally, JetBlue announced plans to add 11 destinations from Spirit's largest hub in Fort Lauderdale, and Frontier Airlines announced plans to add more routes this summer across 18 former Spirit markets. Joining us now is Andrew Levy, the founder and CEO of Avelo Airlines, a low-cost American carrier that launched back in 2021 and services dozens of airports and routes across the East Coast, Midwest, South, and Caribbean. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. The Spirit Airlines was already struggling before the war in the Middle East sent jet fuel prices soaring. How is the war impacting your business?
Well, look, I mean, we were off to a great start this year. The first 2 months of the year were great. March was looking to be probably our best month ever. And then, of course, we've seen what's happened. Fuel prices have skyrocketed. I'd love to be paying $4.13 like you just showed on that graphic. We're paying more like $5 a gallon right now. And so, yeah, look, it's tough when a third of your cost structure doubles overnight. It's it takes time to pass that through to the consumer, and so it's a tough environment right now.
And as you can imagine, as a result of that, some Americans have been rethinking their spending. Have you noticed any changes in reservations and bookings for the summer or fall?
No, I would say not really, but I would say that customers appear to be booking closer into the day to travel, and I think that that's to be expected. And I think that's partly why. I think people are a little more uncertain. They're less willing to make longer term plans. So we're seeing a good demand environment in the very near term, a lot of long range bookings. So, we'll see how the summer progresses. The spring was very good. We're in an off peak period now after Easter. until we start up with the summer demand peak travel season, and we'll see how things go. But for now, it's okay. But it's the hard part is when, like I said, a third of your last year we paid about $30 a customer segment for fuel, and that's now $60. So $30 needs to be recovered from the consumer, and it's not that easy. It would be great if we could snap our fingers and just pass on a $30 fare increase and people would pay it willingly. That's just not how the real world works. So it's a process that takes time, and it's particularly difficult for the smaller airlines like mine.
Avello and other budget airlines recently asked the Trump administration for as much as $2.5 billion in financial support. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has said it's not necessary for the government to bail out budget airlines at this time. Can Avello survive without federal help?
I would say that it depends on how long fuel prices stay up at this level. So we'll see, right? If fuel prices stay at $5 indefinitely, look, it's going to be tough for every airline. The curve right now is backwardated, meaning that, the market believes prices are coming down in the future, but we'll see if that's actually what happens. But there's no question when you see that kind of magnitude of an increase in costs, it has a big effect, particularly on smaller airlines. The low cost airlines, there's really 5, and now I guess there's really going to be 4 of us. I mean, unfortunately, with Spirit's closure, that leaves 5 of us. 2 of them are combining right now, Allegiant and Sun Country. And our average fare amongst us last year was $118. Just to give you a point of reference, the 6 largest airlines in the country, which includes the Legacies, Southwest, JetBlue, and Alaska, their average fare was $240. They were literally twice as expensive as what the quote unquote budget carriers offer to consumers. So we bring a lot of value to the consumer. We appeal to the mass market. We appeal to people who are watching their dollars, who are living on a budget, and our ability to service these customers at affordable fares makes a lot of difference to their quality of life, which to a certain extent really is become a reliance on being able to fly around the country at affordable rates. So I think this is bigger. It's certainly it's an effect for Avello. We're in a good place right now, but like I said, we'll see how long it takes for us to pass these costs on to consumers, and we'll see how long fuel prices stay at these levels. But it is a very difficult challenge, and it's particularly difficult for companies like mine and some of my smaller company brethren out there that offer low fares to consumers.
Would you say that the budget airline model is dead or dying in the United States?
No, I'd say that there's a number of different flavors of budget models. What we do is very different than the other competitors out there. Our complete focus is on bringing convenient everyday low fares to secondary airports of large metro areas. Those include New Haven, Connecticut, Philadelphia, Wilmington. I think that's close to where you're from. Concord, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Lakeland, Florida. And soon in the fourth quarter of this year, we're going to be opening up service at McKinney, Texas, which is up in the northeast corner of the Dallas Metroplex. So our focus is on delivering a unique product to consumers who can take advantage of these great, easy to use small airports offering everyday low fares. And look, it's resonating with consumers. People like what we do because it's a great value to people. Look, I think that there's been a couple versions of the budget airline business model. I think Spirit is a great example where they've run into a lot of challenges, and they ran into a lot of challenges. Part of the reason they're not around. Fuel is undoubtedly what caused them to go out of business now. But certainly they'd been in bankruptcy twice over the past few years, and they had a business model that competed directly with the legacy airlines, the network carriers, and they've become very strong, aided quite honestly in some of the largest government intervention in the free markets that has ever occurred in our industry, at least since deregulation in 1978. So I saw an interview recently with the leader of the Airlines for America, which represents only the largest airlines, those who charge $240 per passenger segment. And I think it's rich that they're suggesting that we should let the free markets prevail when, quite honestly, it's been the consolidation that's occurred that's created these giant behemoth airlines out there. Like you noted, 4 of them controlling 76% of the marketplace. And the single largest government intervention that we've ever seen during COVID, which gave over $70 billion to these same airlines in the form of grants, loans. And that doesn't even include all the loans that they were able to get thanks to the Fed and the government to support them during this period of time, which enabled them to leverage up their loyalty programs to the point where they're almost too big to fail at this point. These are kind of the banks of the airline industry now. They are literally too big to fail. And there's a lot of other consequences that have come up from that government intervention. What we're asking for me and the rest of my group members of the Association of Value Airlines is a little bit of help from the government to recognize that what we do has a huge consumer benefit to the United States, and to help us out during this period where we're transitioning our fare structure to deal with the fact that fuel prices have doubled in the space of the last 60 days.
Andrew Levy, Avelo Airlines CEO, we thank you so much for the time. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Lindsay.
The war with Iran is driving energy costs to levels not seen in years, rippling through global air travel. Several U.S. budget airlines are asking the federal government for a $2.5 billion lifeline, warning that soaring jet fuel prices are putting pressure on their business models and threatening thousands of jobs, along with the affordable fares that millions of travelers depend on. The appeal comes as Spirit Airlines faces a potential bankruptcy and is negotiating separately for a $500 million government bailout, one that could leave the Trump administration with a significant ownership stake. We're joined now by David Shepherdson, aviation, transportation, and technology correspondent at Reuters. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jeff.
So as we mentioned, these low-cost carriers are asking for $2.5 billion, a bailout. What does that really signal about the health of the sector? Is this just about the cost of fuel, or is this an issue about the deeper business model, deeper problems?
I really do think it's about the fuel, right? So as you mentioned, jet fuel prices have doubled. Everybody is suffering, not just the budget guys, but the mainline carriers, American, Delta, United, Southwest. They're all struggling. They're all being forced to raise prices, raise baggage fees, and deal with this. But the budget guys are in a tougher spot, in part because they've got less room to raise prices. Their consumers are much more price sensitive, so it's harder to raise fares and keep those planes filled. And they're also asking Congress to waive the fuel taxes, the surcharge that you pay on your airline ticket. So between that and $200 billion, it's a big ask. And right now, it doesn't appear Congress, the administration, are going to do it now. But depending how long these fuel prices go on, if we see some of these budget guys get in trouble or file for bankruptcy, then I do think Congress might take a more realistic look.
How unusual is a request like this? The airlines got a $25 billion bailout back in 2020. Of course, it was a once-in-a-generation pandemic. We hope once in a generation. I mean, how does this compare?
So I do think the rationale is somewhat similar, although you're right, the COVID pandemic was much different, right? Because demand fell 90% overnight, and they actually got 3 rounds of bailouts, and they got $54 billion in funding in 2020, 2021. So the structure that the budget guys are talking about is similar in that the government would get warrants in exchange for that money that they could exchange for stock. Because remember, in the COVID bailout, those warrants were basically worthless on the day that they gave them the bailouts, and then the government got the appreciation. So the government only got $500-600 million in exchange for a very large bailout. So I do think it's similar. Obviously, things are not nearly as bad, but it really depends how long this goes on.
And Spirit Airlines is asking for a $500 million lifeline. If that funding falls through, what options remain?
Really, it doesn't look like much. I mean, if you listen to Spirit and their lawyers, they're basically facing liquidation. So they do have some money on hand, but they're restricted from using it. They're in negotiations with their creditors and the government to try to reach a deal. It was supposed to be done by today. The talks are continuing. And Spirit has really struggled. So since 2019, they haven't made a profit. They filed for bankruptcy twice in the last 2 years. And they made some mistakes. They made a big expansion bet before COVID. It didn't pay off. And a lot of the market has moved toward the premium segment, right? People want the fancier seats, the United, American, Deltas of the world. And so Spirit has struggled to keep those seats filled. And that business plan they have depends on much cheaper fuel. And the question is, how can they exit bankruptcy with a plan to survive with much higher fuel prices?
Why should we care if Spirit collapses? To your point, they've been struggling for 7 years. If they can't get it together, it's just a free market at play.
No, you hear that argument for a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. However, even if you don't fly Spirit, you do benefit if you're a flyer. They're about 5% of the market, and studies show that the markets where Spirit competes with a Delta or American, those fares are lower. And we've seen certainly in the past that when budget carriers go out of business or stop flying, the legacy carriers can raise prices. So they do act as a downward pressure on airfares. And also, if you're a college kid or you just can't afford to travel, I mean, Spirit, Frontier, the smaller guys, they do provide airline travel options for people who really can't afford to fly the mainline carriers.
Well, what is the bigger picture for the major airlines? Because as you point out, first class seats are really driving profits at airlines like Delta and United.
And credit cards too, right? Between the credit cards and that's billions of dollars in profits. Now there's still a big demand. They're all trying to fill those other seats, and that's why you see the other airlines have these basic economy, no frills fares, because they're trying to compete with the Spirits and the Frontiers of the world to have a lower cost fare. But they're really trying to upsell you to all the fancier seats and the premium food or whatever they have, in the front of the cabin. So. But the Spirits of the world, right, they just don't have that. They don't have the run room to like raise the prices because, their consumer base, if you raise prices $20, $50, $75, they're much less likely to stick with that airfare. And also they're less likely to be business travelers because they have fewer options with fewer flights. If your flight gets canceled, you might get stuck for a day on a small carrier, unlike the bigger guys with lots more flights.
And let's leave our viewers with some news they can use. If they have summer travel plans, now's the time to buy their tickets.
Yeah, it sounds like a salesman, but you really should buy, right? The airlines all say they've only been able to pass on 30 to 40% of the higher cost of fuel. As the year goes on, they plan to increase that. United wants to do all of it. So really my advice is look for airfares now, because prices are only going to go up, assuming the war and these high prices continue for months to come. So don't wait, get your airfares now before it's too late.
Okay, David Shepardson of Reuters. Always great to speak with you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jeff.
American Deltas.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now or even
Support MU News. All right, you guys. Did you like that? Hang on. I got you. Let me share this with you. For those of you that's blaming Donald Trump for Spirit Airlines, let me share some facts.
All right, right now the NTSB investigating a shocking scare at one of America's busiest airports. Yesterday, this all happened after a plane full of passengers hit a truck and a pole on a New Jersey highway while trying to land at Newark. Footage shows it very close to the ground before clipping a bakery truck. The truck company confirming the driver was hospitalized with minor injuries from broken glass. A new audio reveals how Newark air traffic controllers responded.
Did you get a report for what the issue was?
I got different conflictions on the turnpike.
Yeah, they felt something over the threshold, and there's a hole in the side of the airplane. So I'm going to get you on the runway here in a moment. They said it was right at the threshold, so it'll just be a minute.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy joins us now.
The heck
We thought we were
was
just going to be
that?
talking about Spirit Airlines. Then this happens yesterday. How does this happen?
So listen, this is a well-trained pilot. Again, you fly that route coming in from Italy. These are good pilots. We don't quite know yet what happened. And again, did the pilot hit the truck? Did he hit the light pole and
But you
debris
still
from the
don't
light
know
pole?
either
No.
way.
So the NTSB is coming up today. The FAA is going to be there today as well. And we don't want to get ahead of the facts. And oftentimes the first facts are wrong. But obviously there was issues with a couple of vehicles on the roadway. And what could have happened is there was gusty winds yesterday. And again, I don't want to speculate, but I guess I will right now with you for a moment. If the plane was too low and he flared up, that tail will come down. So we'll have more information in the next days, but an initial report will come out from the NTSB in the next 30 days. But this should obviously, without saying, this shouldn't happen.
Right. But the fact is it worthy to go to the air traffic controllers, talk to pilots and say, yeah, I get scared about this in the past. This has always worried me. Or do you see this just a one-off?
Well, what we do with any incident like this, whether they're big or small, we do a full-scale review. And the reason our aviation sector is so safe is there's lessons learned from every incident. And from those incidents, we take action. We reform how we do things, which is why we have the safest skies in the world here in the United States of America.
So let's talk about something that's bad all around, and that is that Spirit Airlines is no longer going to be flying.
Yeah.
Thousands of people are out of work, including pilots and flight attendants and everybody involved. How did we get here to the point, Mr. Secretary, where we have an airline that a lot of people count on go belly up?
So I believe that markets are they work, right? And so there was a proposed merger between JetBlue and Spirit Airlines in 2022. The last administration, people to judge Joe Biden said, you know what? We want competition. We're not going to allow this merger to happen. And because of that, right after, Spirit filed for bankruptcy. And then last year, they filed for bankruptcy a second time. They were bleeding money. They were bleeding market share. It would have made JetBlue stronger. You would have had one stronger airline as opposed to one airline going out of business. And so the story was written years ago. And again, the president did a great job trying to see, is there a pathway where we could bail this out? Does it make sense to keep this airline afloat? We don't have $500 million laying around to bail out an airline. But in the end, what I love about this story is that you didn't see the other airlines try to gouge passengers. You haven't seen chaos in airports. President Trump has thought through how this should be navigated. I reached out to the CEOs. You had all the big carriers offer discount tickets to passengers to get to their destinations. They offered jump seats and open seats to the crews,
which
of
is
Spirit
amazing.
Airlines.
But I would add this: did any of these airlines, or did we approach JetBlue about maybe trying to do this deal again, or because they got beat down once, they're not going to try it again?
I called them all. I talked to all the CEOs, and the problem is there was nothing left. Like their airplanes were leased. I mean, there was really not a lot of value left. It had been leveraged so far, there was nothing left to buy.
Wow, and you didn't think the government buying it is a good precedent?
Well, I didn't. You know, sometimes the government has to step in, right? And we have. I didn't think this was a good idea. But again, I'm just one voice of many, and the president, who does deals so well, wanted to take a hard look at it.
Because he's worried about the people, when the thousands of people are now out of a job.
So he cares the most about the employees. He was like, I don't want to lose, 7,000 employees and adjacent employees up to 14,000. So he wanted to really think through it. But here's the aviation sector is hiring, and these routes are going to be covered by other airlines. So what a lot of the carriers are doing is letting the Spirit employees jump the queue to get into the front of the line to get hired in.
It might be an opportunity for an airline like Frontier, who has a very similar business philosophy. But listen to Neera Tanden, going back to when the merger was offered. She said, given the news today that Spirit Airlines is shuttering and thousands of people are losing their jobs, I think we should honestly assess whether the Garland DOJ stopping the JetBlue merger with Spirit Airlines was the right call. Perhaps it was, but any analysis must consider it as part of the equation of the loss to so many families to decide.
Perhaps it was. No, history has now said it was the wrong decision. The DOJ should not have pursued litigation against the merger. And again, you wouldn't have what's unfolded today.
How about this follow-up question?
But at the time, Pete Buttigieg was celebrating the fact that the merger didn't go through. Elizabeth Warren also celebrated the fact that merger didn't go through.
In fact, we have the tape from the archives. The day is March 7th, 2023.
The Department of Transportation has generally not gotten involved in these merger cases, but that's changing today. It is so important to make sure that passengers have choices, that they have access to low fares, that they have access to competition.
So now they have no choice.
But, I agree with him in the sense that we do want choices. We do want competition. That gives us the best price as consumers. But he made the wrong call. Right. If he had taken a deep dive into Spirit and to JetBlue, he would have seen that merger would have been better for customers. And he still said no to it. And again, the ideology of the last administration was driving all of these decisions, whether it's not allowing this merger, whether it's driving DEI into air traffic control and into aviation. It was ideology as opposed to what is a smart, safe, right thing to do.
And real quick, Mr. Secretary, Elizabeth Warren came out and said she was against the merger. Then she came out and says, I blame the Iran war for the fact that Spirit Airlines went belly up.
So to be really clear, jet fuel prices have gone up. This story was not written because of the Iran war. This story was written years ago because of what Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, and the DOJ under Biden, what they did to prevent the merger from happening. So, again, I love that they try to play revisionist politics. They try to come after Donald Trump again. What do they want? A nuclear Iran? What, I mean, they're blaming fuel prices, but you and I both know that Democrats love higher energy prices. They fought for 4 years to give us higher energy prices. Look at California, $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon, and now they're trying to blame Trump, who wanted American energy dominance. Again, there's the insanity of
They cut a deal with the devil of Maduro to keep prices down and did Venezuelan oil, and then they drained the strategic oil reserve in order to get prices down for the midterm elections, and then they went right back up. And Mr. Secretary, one question, I never did mergers for a living, I give you that, but I would just ask, why was Spirit doing the deal? They were doing it not to be stronger, to save themselves.
Survive.
So to survive, that's different than limiting people's options. It was called, I'd like my airline to survive, so I'm going to go to JetBlue. So
it's like you married your wife so you could survive.
Yes,
it was the same thing. It was a marriage made in heaven.
It all comes back to my relationship.
Comes to sometimes you have to do these mergers. You have to do these deals to make two airlines stronger than they would be separate. Again, now history, one more time, judges the Biden-Buttigieg administration poorly.
All right, Mr. Secretary, it was great to see you. Thanks.
Okay, you guys, let me show you. Let's switch gears. Enough of that. You guys are going to have your opinions. Let me show you what's happening in this United States with these woke judges. The liberal. These liberal judges. And hold on, let me just show it to you. Are we still friends? You guys good in the chat? Let's revisit this. We talked about it a little before, but let me show you what's happening here. And you guys can let me know what you think.
Hearing has just wrapped, we are told, and at one point the judge apologized to Cole Allen. Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel was right outside the courthouse to answer why that possibly was. Mike?
Stewie.
Yes, Andrew, good afternoon to you. Judge Zia Faraqui apologized to suspect Cole Allen for the treatment he's received so far while he's been behind bars. He's been put on suicide watch by the Department of Corrections, and the judge was asking why. An attorney for the government said that he was put on suicide watch because he told FBI agents the night of the White House Correspondents' Dinner attack that he didn't expect to survive. And his language suggested that he really was not expecting to survive his trip to Washington, D.C. and the ultimate incident where he allegedly showed up with a weapon to try and assassinate President Trump. He's been charged with that crime, but the judge very concerned about his constitutional rights, saying the defendant has requested a Bible, has requested meetings with his legal team, and that has not been allowed. He's been put in restrictive 24-hour lockup with no windows in a padded room without an opportunity to get out for recreation. And so the judge making it clear to the Department of Corrections that he wants answers by tomorrow morning about exactly what the housing determination will be made for the suspect in this case, out of grave concern about his constitutional rights, and that apology issued near the end of the hearing. And so quite a moment just moments ago in federal court. Bottom line, the Department of Corrections said they wanted to make sure that he survived, that this is a high-profile case, and all involved acknowledged it is a high-profile case. But again, the judge concerned about the treatment he's gotten since he was arrested after the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting incident. Sandra, back to you.
A lot of people might be shocked by that.
The judge apologized to this guy who's a killer, who, if he had gotten another couple yards, would have sprayed the whole audience in the Correspondents' Dinner. I mean, would have just sprayed him and killed God knows how many, and then would have marched up and taken a shot over the whole audience at the president. We're apologizing to this guy? I don't get that.
seems more concerned about his constitutional rights in some cases than others.
Constitutional rights? Well, all right. Let's bring in constitutional law attorney, my pal Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, so would you speak to this, please? I mean, I guess the prisoners have constitutional rights. The guy's a killer, and God knows what would have happened if we hadn't taken him down. So I don't really think I'm that worried about his housing situation, but you tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, the Department of Justice is in between a rock and a hard place on an issue like this. If you do have a suicide, you have a sort of lingering Epstein conspiracy theories that go on and on and on. Did he really commit suicide? You have someone here who said, I actually expected to die. And so the response from the DOJ is to make sure he didn't die in their custody. Now, that status appears to be lifting. It's not entirely clear. But the most important aspect of this is the denial of access to counsel. He does have a constitutional right for that. He also has a right to have access to a Bible. But the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons are both given a great deal of deference in the housing of inmates, particularly ones where they have concern for their safety, including potential suicide. It's not very common you hear a judge apologize, but this is the type of thing that gets worked out through the court, and I expect that's what's going to happen here. He's going to get access to his lawyers, he'll get access to a Bible, but the Department of Justice itself is going to retain a great deal of discretion on how he is housed.
Well, clearly, there were signs that his intent was to harm a lot of people in that room, in that ballroom there in Washington. There's obviously also a question in that courtroom whether or not the President of the United States was his intended target. Janine Pirro seems to say that there is clear evidence pointing to that. Listen.
We have a lot of evidence that indicates his intent and the fact that everything that he did thereafter, whether it was, following what the president was doing, where he was going to the day of the event at the hotel, tracking on his phone. Is the president in the ballroom yet? Has the president sat down yet? What time will dinner be served? This is clearly the president is a target.
Is it that clear to you, Jonathan?
It is clear to me. This is going to be a one-man show. Cole is going to be both the defendant and the witnesses against him. I mean, it is his own words that state that he wanted to take out people from top to bottom. It's his own words reportedly to the Secret Service agents. So he didn't leave much of a defense here. In fact, I got to tell you, I've been a criminal defense attorney all my career, and I can't really think of a viable defense at this point based on this evidence. They supposedly took a pellet out of the vest of that Secret Service agent. Well, then the night is over on that charge. I mean, if that pellet came from the shotgun and he fired it, that is an attempt on the life of a federal officer. His manifesto gives you, in his own words, his intent to kill people in that room, including the President of the United States. It leaves you as a criminal defense attorney with an incapacity or insanity defense, which will not work in this case, or jury nullification, where a jury just ignores the evidence so that you get a hung jury.
Jonathan, the biblical thing is so interesting. Remember, tell me, I probably don't remember all of it, but something go an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I mean, he deserves what he gets. Eye for an eye. I don't know exactly. My Bible's a little shaky, but I know it's in the Old Testament someplace.
Well, I was told by a Texas state judge once. She turned to me and said, I know where Jesus lives. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, he is in our state prison because everyone finds him there. And so it's not particularly surprising, but it's a little bit belated for him to turn to the Bible.
Yeah, well, everybody discovers God in the trenches. I understand that. I mean, I'm okay with the counsel. He should get a counsel, get a lawyer. I'm okay with that. You're right. Constitutional law. I get it. I just don't like judges apologizing to criminals who would be involved in mass shootings. I just don't like that. I don't know these judges, left-wing judges in Washington, D.C. I don't want to go there. I don't have evidence. I'm just saying, kind of strikes me. I don't want to coddle this guy. If he wants a nice house someplace, then he should have figured out what he was doing wrong, right? He made the choice. And now he's in a heap of trouble.
Well, you're you're going to see a lot of these motions coming out. When you don't have evidence, you try to create appealable issues. You try to get the court to make mistakes. This guy doesn't have any cards in his hand. And so that defense counsel, which has a job to do, the defense is going to try to create some appellate issues here. And they're going to hit every possible shot they can. But the end result in this case doesn't seem much in doubt because the evidence here is so overwhelming.
You know, besides an eye for an eye, what if thou shalt not kill? Wasn't that someplace in the Bible?
Yes.
It was a commandment.
I vaguely recall that.
Oh,
Yes.
well, at least we're all agreed on that.
We all
Jonathan,
agree on
nobody better than you biblically, Jonathan. This is a whole new,
Thank
side of you.
Professor, thank you so much.
Okay. You guys, how are y'all seeing that stage? How are you guys seeing that stage? Okay. For Donald Trump. He knows that people are out for his life. I'm looking for something for you. Here we go. In case you didn't know, let me share this with you. We're almost there, you guys. We're almost there.
The Secret Service says there was an officer-involved shooting just steps from the Washington Monument. Want to show you the map here. So this is the corner of Independence and 15th Street. So it's not super close to the White House, but it's not super far from it. It's right off the National Mall there. And I want to show you what the scene looked like in the last couple of minutes. DC police, looks fairly quiet at the moment, but they still want people to avoid the area. They've closed it all off. And this did have an impact to the White House. The Secret Service ended up evacuating the North Lawn. Our Monica Alba was there when it happened. Mon, tell us more because, you know, it's not unheard of, but it's not very common at all that they'd shut down the North Lawn like that.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Hallie, a handful of times I have experienced that, but typically the Secret Service agents, when they're notifying you that you need to move from this very camera position into the West Wing, they sort of tell you with a firmness, but not a sense of urgency like the one that we saw today, where certain agents did have some long guns drawn and were ushering us in, almost encouraging us to run inside. And of course, we didn't know why at the time, but we are learning more information. And Hallie, I just got a message alerting me that the Secret Service just put out a little bit more information. There are a couple of details we know, but they are just sharing publicly that this incident, which you're seeing there on your screen at 15th Street and Independence Avenue, so closer to the Washington Monument than here to the White House, that this incident, quote, resulted from a confrontation between an armed individual and Secret Service police. So these are the kinds of agents who you would see around some of these very significant landmarks here in Washington, certainly here at the White House and beyond that. And what we know is that at least one person has been transported to a local hospital. It is unclear in what condition they are in. And again, it's unclear, Hallie, how these shots were fired, who initiated the shots, how was this person hit, what was this person doing? All of that is still unknown. But what we do know is that that area that you are showing on your screen has been locked down for blocks and a significant amount in each direction as this investigation begins to unfold. Again, so to set the scene here at the White House where we are, President Trump was about to start an event, remarks at a small business focused gathering in the East Room. And that had already been a little bit delayed before this incident took place. And we were waiting for him to come out and speak when this happened, when then they moved us inside to the West Wing. And about 5 minutes or so after that, the president did enter the East Room and began his event without anything and certainly making no mention of that shooting as we were just learning about it in real time. Hallie.
That's right. No impact to the president, to the interior of the White House there. It was sort of business as usual. As you noted, the Secret Service says that one individual was shot by law enforcement. Monica Alba, come back when you learn more. I know you will. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being with us tonight.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app.
Okay, guys. All right. Let me put y'all in a good mood before I go. Let me put you in a good mood. Okay, hang on, you guys. Sorry, you guys. I'm trying to. Here we go. Let me give this to you before I go. Sorry about the background noise that you guys are about to hear.
So I think we could do this right here instead of at Doral. We're going to Doral. A lot of you traveling with me. Doing very well with regard to just about everything, but doing very well with regard to Iran. Again, they want to make a deal. They're decimated. And they're having a hard time figuring out who their leader is. They don't know who their leader is because their leader is gone. Their former leader, Khomeini. But we'll see. Any questions real fast? Which?
The new 14-point proposal that Iran has proposed?
No, I haven't. I'm looking at it up here.
You're looking at it?
I'll let you know about it later. But
Mr. President, last night you said we might be better off not making a deal with Iran.
well, I wouldn't have to. I didn't say that. I said that if we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. We're going to do it so nobody has to go back in 2 years or 5 years.
Mr. President, you also said last night that
They told me about the concept of the deal. They're going to give me the exact wording there. Yeah.
Mr. President, last night you also said that only like 85% of Iran's missile-making capabilities has been eliminated.
Correct.
Is that other 15% important? Does the United States need to eliminate that?
Well, I'd like to eliminate it. Yeah, I'd like to. It'd be a start for them to build up again. And yeah, I would like to eliminate it.
Sir, Sir, under what circumstances would you restart military strikes on targets?
Well, I don't want to say that. I mean, I can't tell that to a reporter. If they misbehave, if they do something bad, but right now, we'll see. But it's a possibility that could happen, sir.
Mr. President, in your letter to Congress, you said the hostilities in Iran that started have been terminated. How can you say that given that the naval blockade is still being militarily enforced?
Well, it's a very friendly blockade. Nobody's even challenging it. Nobody at all is challenging it. Just so you understand, many presidents have been involved in things that are very big. They never had to go through anything with respect to Congress. They considered it to be totally unconstitutional. And the Democrats in Congress that pushed this, and probably a couple of Republicans, they're hurting our negotiating ability, which is infinite right now. And they shouldn't be doing it. It's never happened before. No other president's done it. And I'm not going to be the first. Thank you very much.
Right. Mr. President, do you envision a future where American energy companies are operating inside of Iran, much like Venezuela?
It could be. I'll tell you what, we have a lot of ships coming up to Texas and Louisiana. It's a line of ships. You saw it in the satellite. We have a line of ships, big ones, 2 million barrels, and they're coming up. I mean, literally hundreds of ships are in line to go to Texas. I mean, they're already started, but we're selling a lot of oil, a lot of oil.
Mr. President, why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany? Why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany?
We're going to cut way down, and we're cutting a lot further than 5,000. Thank you very much.
When is enough with Iran?
Hang on, I'm not gonna play this whole thing, but I wanna play you something. I'm gonna let you play if I find it.
People who quote manipulate religion for political or military gain. Do you think that he's talking about you, sir?
It's very important that the Pope understands. Very, very important.
I can listen to this guy all day.
Iran killed 42,000 people that were totally unarmed. They were protesters. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they did, every country, including Italy, where he's stationed, every single country in the world would be in trouble. So we're doing very well with respect to that, having to do with the whole situation on Iran, the the blockade is amazing. It's holding up very strong, very powerfully. And I think we're making a lot of progress on that. But the Pope has to understand Iran, very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The world would be in great danger.
Would you need with the Pope to even out your differences because Catholics are torn?
I don't think it's necessary.
Mr. President, you spoke with Prime Minister Modi just a couple of days ago. What was the conversation like? What is it that is on the table now?
I had a very good talk with him, and he's a friend of mine from India, and he's doing great. We had a very good conversation.
Are you considering extending the ceasefire with Iran?
With who?
With Iran.
We're doing very well, I can tell you. Maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended. Just so you know, Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them. We've got to have no nuclear weapons. If we do, that's a big factor. And they're willing to do things today that they weren't willing to do 2 months ago.
Do you have any news about Ukraine? Do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine?
Will Hezbollah stick to the ceasefire? Are you confident about that?
I think they will. I think it's going to be, actually, it's very exciting because it's 48 years. We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah. And I think it could be number 10 for me.
Mr. President, do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine? Do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine?
Ukraine is moving along. I wish they could get along, frankly. A lot of people are dying in Ukraine. We'll see what happens. There's things happening there. We're focused so much right now in Iran, seeing if we can get that completed. And I think we're going to get it. And I think if you look, the stock market is good. The oil prices are coming down, and it's looking very good that we're going to make a deal with Iran, and it's going to be a good deal. It's going to be a deal with no nuclear weapons.
When is the next in-person round of negotiations on the war in Iran?
They're all important. I mean, it's not a question of around. All of them are important. Probably, maybe over the weekend.
Before we get out of here, I'm going to share this with you just because it's the latest update. And then I'm going to bid y'all good night, okay? Here we go. Let me give you a little bit of hope.
You shorten that up to mean embargo, blockade plus.
Yeah, blockade plus. Now, what does that mean? I love the idea of a Second Amendment solution for the Iranian people. To those who want to eliminate the Second Amendment in our country, no way. What did the Founding Fathers do? When they got to America, free from the king, they made sure the people would be able to be armed. The first thing the king does is takes the guns away from his subjects. The first thing a religious theocracy does is make sure that nobody can have a gun to threaten the regime. So if I were President Trump and I were Israel, I would load the Iranian people up with weapons so they could go to the streets armed and turn the tide of battle inside Iran. We don't need American boots on the ground. We've got millions of boots on the ground in Iran. They just don't have any weapons. Give them the weapons so they can rise up like we did to destroy this regime. A Second Amendment solution, I think, would go a long way to ending this war. If we can take control of the Straits, if we can take control of the Straits, checkmate.
Okay, my understanding is there have been attempts to do so, and they try to funnel it through groups. My understanding is that, for example, working with the Kurds, they were stealing 90% of the weapons.
Yeah. Don't work with the Kurds, work with somebody else. And if you can prove to me the Kurds are stealing the weapons, the Kurds will regret that. I love the idea of empowering the Iranian people with weapons, a Second Amendment solution to make the Revolutionary Guard's life hell. It's one thing to be bombed by us, another thing to have your neighbors shoot back at you because they're tired of being slaughtered. Number two, the Strait of Hormuz is the only thing left. This has been a brilliant campaign by President Trump and our military. The nuclear program of Iran has been destroyed. Their ability to spread terrorism has been destroyed because they're on their knees economically. If we can control the straits, if we can take back control of the Straits of Hormuz, it is checkmate. This thing is over. To the American people, I know gas prices are high and I know we're suffering right now, but you pay now or you pay later against thugs like Iran. They tried to get a nuclear weapon, and if you don't believe that, you shouldn't be allowed to drive in your hometown. Donald Trump stopped Iran from having 8 to 10 nuclear weapons by bombing their enrichment facilities. God bless you, President Trump. We were weeks away from a nuclear-armed Iran. No more. Everything has been obliterated. Their economy is in tatters. Their military has been decimated. There's more to do. If we can control the straits, checkmate against Iran, blockade plus, arm the people. And to our allies throughout the world who depend on the Strait of Hormuz more than we do, get off your ass and help us.
Well, they haven't been so willing to do so. I can't imagine that NATO in its current configuration looks anything like it does today when this is all said and done. I can't believe, I don't see any scenario under which countries like Germany and Spain and France and even Great Britain and Italy have America paying 2/3 of the freight for NATO's security when they didn't have the moral clarity to stand up against a nuclear-armed Iran and the #1 state sponsor of terror.
It is moral clarity. If you believe the Ayatollah and his henchmen would use a nuclear weapon as part of their religious doctrine, you would be right. If you thought otherwise, you would miscalculate like we did with Hitler. Israel cannot get this wrong. One Holocaust is enough. We know, you know, and I know, if Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would use it in the name of jihad. So Donald Trump is a historic figure, and I know the left doesn't like hearing that. He's the man that did something about Iran's nuclear ambition while every other president allowed them to go basically unchecked. How do you have 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium at 60%? They cheat. How do you have missiles that can go to Europe? They cheat. Well, Donald Trump has decimated the missile program. He's destroyed their nuclear capability, and they have been weakened beyond my imagination in 60 days. The only thing left to do is control the straits, and we can do that. At the end of the day, to our friends in Europe and throughout the world, help us reestablish freedom of navigation. Freedom of navigation is a core principle to the world economy. I am proud of Project Freedom. Project Freedom will work, and people should be helping us. What are we trying to accomplish? To allow ships to go through the Straits of Hormuz to help the world economy. That's not that shouldn't be a hard thing to sign up for. As to President Trump, see this through. These guys are on their back foot, Mr. President. You have been brilliant in concept and execution. Just see it through. We're near the end now. Let's finish this in a way that nobody has to do it again. You're the guy that got it right. Everybody else got it wrong. And the day that Iran is put in a box, that's when Israel and Saudi Arabia will go back to the peace table. The day we control the straits, gas prices will tumble down. The stock market will be steady and growing. And in the fall, we'll be talking about peace, not war. The only reason Saudi Arabia and Israel did not make peace is because of October the 7th. And no longer can Iran, through their proxies, generate another October 7th. Victory is near in Iran. To the American people, President Trump got this right in spite of all the critics. God bless you, President Trump, for stopping what would be a nightmare for this world.
It does get difficult when you hear people just speak out of total ignorance and just make things up. Donald Trump did this because of Fox News. Donald Trump did this because of Bibi Netanyahu. Donald Trump didn't do anything of the sort. Donald Trump did it because he was informed by his Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, that they had the 60% enriched uranium, that they were less than 12 days away from being able to enrich it to weapons-grade uranium at 90%, And the president had said even before he became president the first time that that's something that he would never allow to happen on his watch. He followed through on his promise. Now it's a matter of just finishing this up. How do you now define victory as this seems to be in the closing days?
Regain freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. If they continue to attack our allies like the United Arab Emirates, the UAE has been champion allies. They've done everything we've asked and more. So when Iran attacks them with missiles and drones, we need to be there for the United Arab Emirates. If they do this, they continue to do this, attack ships and our allies, I would let Admiral Cooper finish the job, go against targets like General Kellogg indicated. I'm not a real advocate of taking Karg Island. I think we ought to tell the Iranians we will destroy it from the air. That will accomplish the mission I have in mind, which means they can never regenerate anytime soon to become the largest state sponsor of terrorism, and their nuclear program's been obliterated. We're close to victory. Victory to me would be regaining freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz, degrading a little bit further, short, big, strong response to degrade their military capability a bit further, threaten Karg Island with destruction, and pull out and try to get Israel and Saudi Arabia back to the peace table. The ultimate victory is that Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace, ending the Arab-Israeli conflict, because Donald Trump put Iran in a box. He was not Obama. He was not Biden. He didn't beg them. He didn't give them a bunch of money. He blew up their capability to wage war and terrorism. You will go down in history, Mr. President, as being the greatest peacemaker in the history of the Mideast if you can put Iran in a box and have Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace on your watch this year. That is victory.
Well, if he takes out the IRGC, opens up the strait, and somehow if we can arm the Iranian people, I think this is game, set, match. Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, thank you. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.
That, okay.
Iran has reportedly made a new offer to the United States. Here it is. Iran will allow a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
I know I said I was done, but you guys, can we do one more? I forgot.
If President Trump puts nuclear negotiations on hold. Well, that would be a huge bonus for them.
I'm sorry.
That may be a non-starter, as President Trump's top priority is eliminating any possibility of a nuclear-armed Iran. He scrapped the second round of peace talks in Pakistan over the weekend and said this.
We have all the cards. If they want to talk, they can come to us or they can call us. You know, there is a telephone. If they want, they can call us. But again, they know what has to be in the agreement. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Central Command says the U.S. has now redirected 38 ships headed to or from Iranian ports since the U.S. blockade of Iran began nearly 3 weeks ago. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin is in Washington, D.C. Jennifer.
Harris, the president will meet at the White House today with his national security team to discuss how to end the stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz and pressure the Iranians. With a third aircraft carrier in the Middle East and ongoing flights of refueling tankers and cargo planes creating an air bridge to the Middle East, Iran sent a message to Washington that it is willing to lift its blockade on the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for the U.S. doing the same. But the offer, as you mentioned, does not address its nuclear program. In the Arabian Sea this weekend, the Pinckney intercepted the MV Sivan, one of 19 sanctioned Shadow Fleet tankers moving Iranian oil. The merchant vessel is currently complying with U.S. military direction to turn back to Iran under escort, CENTCOM said in a statement. 38 vessels to or from Iranian ports have been redirected since the blockade of Iranian ports began.
We have twice the amount of power in the region today than what we had when we started the war. The Israelis, who we don't talk about enough, are part of this combined force. They are flush now with all of their magazine depth brought back up to maximum levels after they had been depleted, after 4 or 5 weeks of war. So what we have in the region and the blow that we can deliver is absolutely significant.
Iran's new proposal was presented by Pakistani officials who are trying to mediate, but the president has said he wants to end Iran's atomic program as part of an overall deal. Shortly after President Trump announced this weekend that he was not sending his negotiators all the way to Islamabad, the Iranians, he said, sent a better proposal, but it still falls short of President Trump's demands. Harris?
Jennifer, thank you very much for getting us started on this part of our coverage. In focus now, Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb, a retired Black Hawk helicopter pilot and battalion commander. Good to have you in focus. Let's start, if we can, with the idea that Iran thinks that it can water down this deal and negotiate from their end. Are they delusional, or could that happen?
Right now, Harris, I would say that they're probably more delusional than anything else. I mean, let's put it simply. There are two things that need to be on the table more than anything else, and that is Iran's nuclear program and the access to the Strait. Those are the two things they want to take off and say they don't really want to talk about during this peace negotiations, if they were to happen. In that case, all they're really saying is they're not serious and there's no reason for us to be there because we're not going to take those off the table, and we must insist they remain there.
What kind of a threat are they now, considering the fact that, yes, they can hit their neighbors and they can, trigger cells if they happen to be in Western countries or even the United States? What threat are they now? And we know they feel that economic pressure.
Yes, they certainly do feel the economic pressure, especially since there's so many tankers that have turned around, frankly, and come to the United States to get to buy their energy supplies. And that's a significant change, too, as a result of all this. But the threat remains, but they are clearly not what they used to be. Militarily, they can still threaten their neighbors a little bit, but nowhere near as much as we thought. Or I should say at the beginning, it's 95% reduction in their ability to launch drones and missiles. Largely destroyed, even though they'll try to rebuild it. And they're in the process of trying to dig systems out of the sand to be able to reuse them. So I wouldn't mark them off yet and say that they're not a threat. They are, but they're not near as significant as they used to be.
All right, let's get into the money. The U.S. blockade on Iranian ports is having a significant impact on Iran's economy. The U.S. Navy says it's sent more than $1 billion worth of crude oil back to Iran, meaning they can't put that on open market because they can't move those ships to where they need to go so they can sell it and deliver it. President Trump said yesterday on other ways the conflict is hurting Iran. This, watch.
Their factories, their missile-making factories have been damaged about 75%, which isn't 100%, so there's danger there. And their drone-making ability has been damaged about 80%, 82%. They're in bad shape. They have no ships because of the blockade. What happens is that line explodes from within, both mechanically and in the earth. Something happens where it just explodes. And they say they only have about 3 days left before that happens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the oil coming out of the ground. If you don't continue to pump it, what happens to all of that? And they don't have a place to put it because they can't move the oil and empty out those ships and so on and so forth. So talk to me about how this wraps up militarily.
Well, militarily, ultimately, if you keep that embargo in place and keep the naval blockade in place, then you have exactly what President Trump is talking about, and that's the shutting down of the Iranian economy, which is based on oil, and that economy feeds an industrial-scale terror and criminal enterprise. All of that means, best case, that you can end this thing without having to have any more shots fired, because Iran basically is no longer able to conduct commerce.
Real quickly, and excuse me, because we're short on time, do we go in on the ground in any configuration? Because the nuclear is really a component, all of that uranium that we want to get to that's highly processed.
We could. I certainly hope not. In fact, I would say that the best idea there is just to leave it buried and make sure it stays buried. If they make a move towards it, just bomb it again maybe and make sure that it doesn't ever come out of the ground. I don't want to have American forces on the ground in Iran, though. I don't see an advantage there.
All right. Lieutenant Gobb, thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Gobb, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Woo. You guys. Good morning, Pink Pal. Good morning. You guys, y'all good? I'm going to continue to pray for our country. I'm going to pray for all of you. I'm going to pray for those that have TDS syndrome. There is a cure. And I just pray. I pray for our nation. I do. Oh, I see you guys all in the chat. Hopefully I cured your, hopefully, you know, I cured, well, I started your day off right with a little bit of the news, you guys. I'm so sorry. My brain is shutting down on me. Feel free to leave me a comment under my community posts. I do respond to my comments. Let me know any suggestions, you guys. I really appreciate you guys. And listen, I love all of you. All right, with God's love. All right, I don't care your race, color, or whatever it is. I don't care. We're all the same to me. I will see you guys later. You guys have a great rest of your day. Cobra Man. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. We'll talk later. I'll probably do a regular stream for you guys pretty soon so we can catch up, and then we'll be back with the news. All right. God bless you guys. Take care. I hope everyone has a blessed day. You too, Stewie girl. Look at Eric. Eric is in the chat mad. They released the women in blacks. What'd you say? You guys have they released the women in blacks. Huh. All right, you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.